at htv.com. Member FDIC. Hey, you there.
Okay.
Yeah, you're the headphones
So we're live there.
Have you ever dreamed of working in radio? Well, Odyssey's annual fellowship program and internships are the perfect opportunity for you to make that dream a reality. You'll get hands-on experience in everything from on-air talent to production, all while being mentored by seasoned radio pros. Plus, you get to hang out with us cool radio folks. And who knows, you might even get to be the next big radio star. So, what are you waiting for? Visit odyssey.com/career.
Did you hear about Glenn Big Baby Davis?
Say it again.
Did you hear about Big Baby Davis? Got sentenced
Glenn
to he got sentenced to 40 months in prison plus 3 years supervised.
Well, somebody said something about him going to jail, but I didn't know if it was true or not.
Yeah.
All right, I need a text line. Yeah, I'll let you know when there's first segment. There is no audio.
Okay.
No matter the weather, emergency, or time of day, you're the ones who get it done. At Grainger, we're here for you with professional grade industrial supplies. Count on real-time product availability and fast delivery. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
The Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and more. Don't miss a beat. Just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app.
WOID Spartanburg.
The Legacy HD, the official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan.
Upstate.
Odyssey Sports Station. You ready? Let's go. From the fields to the courts, and the gridirons to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wild.
Well, the Charlotte Hornets have found themselves a basketball coach. It's been a long time since they've had a basketball coach. Steve Clifford, he did his best at pretending to be one and just continued to run the Charlotte Hornets in the ground. But the good news is, as we all knew, that the Hornets were moving on from Clifford. They have named Boston Celtics assistant Charles Lee as the team's next head basketball coach. So the Hornets have a new coach. The Panthers have a new coach. We are going to try our best to turn this ship around in Charlotte and somehow, some way, get Charlotte sports back to the top. We do a lot of Charlotte sports coverage, our coverage of the Panthers, our coverage of the Hornets, and we both want Diesel and I, who's not here today, by the way, he'll be back tomorrow. Diesel and I, and everyone at this station, wants the Hornets to be good. Brandon back on the board for the second day in a row. Glad to be with you. My name is Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire right here on the Fan Upstate. Several ways for you to get in touch with the show as we're talking about the new Hornets head basketball coach. You can get in on the stream. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Text line open as well, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Again, that's FAN. Phone line's 844-FAN phone. The phones are open right now, by the way. That's 844-326-3663. Hornets have a new coach. Panthers have a new coach. For both teams, they'll go into this next season trying to put the ownership in the rear view, put the previous ownership behind them. New ownership with the Panthers a few years now. Extremely new ownership with the Hornets. And who is Charles Lee? That is the question that I'm sure you will ask. No one really knows who Charles Lee is unless you follow basketball pretty closely. I'm glad you asked. Charles Lee is a current assistant basketball coach for the Boston Celtics. The team announced Thursday that Charles would take over for the Hornets after the Celtics run comes to an end. He's still coaching right now in Boston. Lee has been an NBA assistant coach for the past 10 years and joined the Celtics staff this past all season. Before that, he was an assistant with the Milwaukee Bucks, an assistant with the Atlanta Hawks. He served with Mike Budenholzer in Milwaukee and Atlanta, had very close ties to Mike, won a championship with Mike. He has no previous experience, however, leading his own team. This will be the first time that Charles Lee, the new Hornets coach, will be leading his own team. The Hornets said, "We are excited to welcome Charles Lee as the new head coach of the Charlotte Hornets." This came from Jeff Peterson, the executive vice president. Peterson says about Jeff Lee, Lee has high character, and his ability to connect with players while also instilling a culture of accountability will serve us well as we construct a competitive team built for long-term success. Charles possesses a championship pedigree with a wide range of basketball knowledge and NBA experience, has a tremendous work ethic, and is a great communicator. He shares our vision for the organization, and I look forward to partnering with him and building something special here in the Carolinas. So I ask the question to you, the Tolos, the listeners. Tolo stands for turn it on, leave it on. That's what we encourage you to do right here on the Fan Upstate. However you're listening, 97.1 Spartanburg, 97.7 Greenville, or the Odyssey app, the free Odyssey app. We appreciate you being along, but I want to ask the question. If you're not already a Charlotte Hornets fan, okay, if you're not a fan of the Charlotte Hornets today, 2024, but you like basketball, you maybe follow college a little bit more than you do pro. You know, I know a lot of people around this area aren't pro basketball fans like I am to the degree that I am, but they still enjoy the game of basketball. So I asked the question, what will it take for you to become a Hornets fan if you're not already one? And what will it take for you to become vested in their games? Basketball is an amazing sport. Charlotte's an amazing city, okay? Just an hour north. And let's be real. This area, the upstate, Spartanburg, Greenville, and surrounding areas, they need a basketball team to pull for. The Hornets have not done a good job. Michael Jordan did a terrible job at getting this community, getting the Carolinas in full support of their team. Now, granted, he didn't put the right pieces on the court to make it worthwhile either, but I want to know from you, what will it take for you to become a Hornets fan? If you're not already one, what will it take for you to become vested in Charlotte basketball? Madcraft on the stream says $10, says Diesel throws his bra onto the stage tonight at the Foo Fighters concert. Madcraft, that is correct. That is where Diesel is. He is on the way to a concert tonight, so that's why he's not here today. He will be back tomorrow. T-Swizzle on YouTube. What's up, T-Swizzle? T-Swizzle says Brandon Miller is going to be the guy, going to be the face of Charlotte. T-Swizzle, I would agree with you. He is the guy that they should build around. Brandon, your thoughts on the new hire and if this guy can rally, the Carolinas around him and create something special?
Ooh, so it's kind of a little tough, I guess to call it a double-edged sword. I still am particular for the old Charlotte Hornets, but I also liked the Charlotte Bobcats.
Ooh.
That was just I guess it's just like the color scheme I liked a lot.
Do I not a Bobcats fan, by the way?
Do I think this is a good hire? Yes, I do, because what he did with Atlanta, with Coach Bud, Atlanta Hawks had that incredible run when Budenholzer was the head coach and he had him as an assistant. Do I think this is a great hire? Yes, I do. Do I think he will turn the franchise around? I'm going to agree with T-Swizzle on there that Brandon Miller is who you need to build it around. Do you remember last year people were booing because they didn't get Scoot Henderson as their pick? They got Brandon Miller, and Brandon Miller has silenced all the naysayers. Sure. And he is he's going to be the face of the Hornets. I think they're starting to get the right pieces. Obviously, it's still yet to be determined for the draft, and it's also been determined for what's going to expect for the season. So, but I think Charlotte's on the right path. Yes,
I do too. I'll be interested to see what they do with Brandon Miller, how they surround him. I would agree with you and T-Swizzle that Brandon Miller is the guy that they need to build around, because as you said, Brandon, there were a lot of Hornets fans who did not like the pick, especially with them having such an early pick, However, Brandon Miller has had an exceptional young career, okay?
Well, let's also look at it this way. He is not Marvin Harrison. Do you remember when Marvin Harrison was selected by the Atlanta Hawks? People were so angry about that.
Sure.
Brandon Miller has shown that he is going to be a good addition for this franchise. And, you just said it. I think this is that he is the piece that they are missing. Build around them. You have the pieces to start. Let's get it going. I think Charlotte Hornets will do good with Brandon Miller in the future.
They've got to really make an effort. Very similar to what the Panthers are having to do with Bryce Young. It's funny that the Hornets are in a little bit similar of a situation that the Panthers are, because the Panthers realize now, keyword now, Canales realizes now, this new OC and new GM Dan Morgan, they realize in Charlotte that, hey, they've got their guy in Bryce Young, right? Now we have to build around him. They did not do, in my opinion, a good job of building around Bryce Young last year. They did this year in the draft, in my opinion, help Bryce Young in certain categories. Wide receiver, running back. You've got to have weapons around Bryce Young. And I think it's ironic that just down the road, the Charlotte Hornets are in a very similar situation with Brandon Miller, because Brandon Miller from Alabama, who, as you said, Brandon, was not the pick that most Hornets fans wanted. But Brandon Miller last year, 74 games played. He shot 44% from the field, 37%, 38% three-point shooting kind of guy, very efficient from the free throw line, shot 80+% from the free throw line all year long, a very good offensive player, averaged 17, 18 points per game all season for Charlotte. He's a guy that's similar to Bryce Young in a sense of he is good enough to be the guy, but the Hornets now have to understand quickly that they've got to surround Brandon Miller with pieces. In this draft coming up, in the offseason, the short offseason, but in the offseason, during free agency, this new staff, whoever Charles Lee decides to bring in, this new staff really needs to focus on its player, Brandon Miller, and do what Carolina's doing. The Panthers do what they're doing, surround Brandon Miller with the best possible talent, get him a big, get him somebody that he can trust down low. And if they do that, they'll be heading in the right direction. To your point, the Hornets already have gotten to the lowest of lows. So the good news for Charles Lee is, and this sounds terrible, but it's just the truth. The good news for the new coach, Charles Lee, is, look, Steve Clifford could not have done any worse of a job, okay? He could not have been any more atrocious. When you're in post-game interviews and you're being asked about being 25 games back in the Eastern Conference, the floor can't get any lower. Like, you have already ruined and ran this franchise and this basketball program into the ground because you just don't know how to get the most out of your players. Granted, the front office hasn't given you, Steve Clifford, the talent that you need. That's fair, but the talent that you do have, you guys don't play like you want to be there. There's no identity on defense, and this team has never been good under Steve Clifford. They should have never brought him back in the first place. So now the good news is, like I said, for Charles Lee, hey, is look, Charles, you can only go up, you can only go up from here. You can't go down because Steve Clifford, he set the bar extremely low. So I asked the question again to the audience. In your opinion, what would it take, number one, for the Hornets to have to do in order for you to become vested to say, hey, I'm going to go to Charlotte once or twice a year because it's only an hour drive? What would it take for them to be able to grab you as a fan and become vested in their games? I, as someone who would absolutely drive an hour to go watch the Hornets play, even on a weekday night, would love to be able to drive north, to drive to Charlotte on a weekday, a weekend, and see a competitive basketball team, right? I want to see this new staff and new ownership, once the new staff comes in, because Charles Lee is still coaching in Boston, I want to see them make a conservative effort to bring in guys that are going to make Brandon Miller better. He's already a good player. You average 17, 18 points in the NBA. You're doing a good enough job. Very, very talented player. But I want to see this front office really do what the last front office with Michael Jordan and crew did not do. I want them to put pieces around Brandon Miller. I want them to be competitive in free agency. Again, I'm not saying you have to go land, a big name star, but at least be competitive enough to where you can draw somebody to Charlotte. Because right now, there's no one on that roster other than Brandon Miller that people would want to play with. There's nobody out there in Charlotte on that team that somebody looks at their roster and says, man, that'd be fun to go play in Charlotte with. Oh, wait, there is nobody. So I want to see them make a valiant effort to bring people to Charlotte that attracts other free agents to this market. Because if you go to Charlotte Hornets games, while they are low in attendance, there is support, okay? Charlotte is big enough. Charlotte is growing to where if this team made a conservative effort to put talent on the floor, they would get all the support they wanted. I can promise you, if this team started winning, that place would be full. You go to the games, you see the star talent that's on the baseline. You see the Denny Hamlins. You see the Michael Jordans and all of the former Panthers players that still live in the area. You see how many people will support the Hornets, but it's going to take ownership doing what ownership hasn't done and actually making an effort to surround them with attractive pieces to bring other free agents to there. The bottom line is, in this last free agency period, before, let's say, Damian Lillard went to Milwaukee, that's where you have to position yourself. I'm not saying you have to be able to go get a LeBron James or a Steph Curry, okay? But you do have to position yourself to where you do have the talent to be able to go and get a guy like, Damian Lillard to come and look at the Hornets and say, oh, you know what? The Hornets haven't been good, but they do have pieces around them that are attractive, okay? They do have pieces around them that are attractive. So I could go get a Damian Lillard now. You're not going to do that with the current pieces that you have. You're going to have to strip some fat, okay? You're going to have to bring in some new faces. I like what T Swizzle says on the YouTube. You've got to get rid of Ball. I would probably agree with that. Texter says, look, I've been a Hornets fan going back to the original franchise as a 90s kid. I've been hoping for new blood to take charge for several years. Excited about the new coach. There's a Hornets fan, great example, that has stuck with one of the worst teams in the NBA. And guess what? They deserve to have a team around them in the Charlotte area that actually can score points and not be 24 freaking games back out of first place. That's what's embarrassing. We're not asking you to go in the freaking East in the first year, Charles Lee. We're not asking you in the first 3 years to go to an NBA championship. We're asking you and ownership to get a team on the floor that's actually competitive and where your coach isn't having to answer questions about being back 24 games in the freaking Eastern Conference, which isn't even the strongest conference most years. You've got to do a better job as a franchise, front office, and head coach. I'm excited about the new change as well. This guy, as we talked about, Brandon, he's been with Budenholzer, who, let's be honest, shouldn't have been fired in Milwaukee after he won a championship, got canned. This guy has championship pedigree. He's learned from the best. He was with Budenholzer in Milwaukee and Atlanta. He's been an assistant at Boston. Pretty good culture in Boston right now. So he's had a chance to see arguably one of the best, if not the best cultures in Boston right now, Brandon, and hopefully he can use that to come down and build a culture in Charlotte.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think you're about to see a change in the East as far as competitiveness with lower level teams. Charlotte has been a bottom feeder, unfortunately, for a long time. And, they started to finally get it together at the end. And, T. Swizzle said it correctly, get rid of Ball. he's injured too much. Two, he thinks he's all that, and he's not a team player. It is a me kind of guy. And if you build what is the old saying? If you build it, they will come.
Sure.
Build the team around Brandon Miller, and you will be surprised at the dramatic increase in wins, the camaraderie, the team work with this team. I think we're 1, maybe 2 years away from seeing a highly competitive Charlotte Hornets team.
I hope so. James on Twitter says, I'll become a Hornets fan if God joins the team or the Panthers win Super Bowls back-to-back. Well, James, I guess you're saying, buddy, you're never going to become a Hornets fan, right? Is that what you're saying? Text line 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Texter says, Hornets need to really lower their ticket prices to get better attendance. To get better attendance and put a winning team on the floor. ... Draft a young star to build around. Well, Miller's a young star. He's not a star. And Brandon Miller is a star, but he's not a superstar, okay? He's not a Steph Curry. He's not a LeBron. He's not a guy that a Giannis. He's not a guy that can take over and put a team on his back. He's a star. I think he's good enough to be a really good piece on the team. But the reality of it is, in today's league, in today's game, you've got to have more than that, just that. You've got to have a team around him. And guess what? We've seen now lately that not only do you have to have one star, you really need 2 or 3 superstars. That's just the way it is. Whether you like it or not, you say, I don't want to see a super team. Well, guess what? You don't want to see a super team. You don't want to see wins, okay? Kyrie and Luka, as good as they are, Luka Doncic's arguably the best basketball player on the planet. In my opinion, he's probably the best player on the planet right now, at least top 2, top 3. Kyrie Irving, we all know how good Kyrie is. There's no explanation needed there. They have shown you, however, that even as good as they are, Kyrie and Luka last year couldn't get it done. I know Kyrie came in midseason this year. They haven't been as good as they should have been. They're not right now playing well in the playoffs. We'll see if they can somehow get past OKC, but it didn't start off well. They'll play again tonight in game 2. But my point is, the NBA has shown you that you've got to have a star-studded team in order to get it done. Okay, you've got to have a Klay Thompson. You've got to have a Steph Curry. You've got to have a Draymond Green. And a Kyrie and Luka isn't even cutting it. That's what's sad. The two, as special as they are in the Western Conference, they're not getting out of the West. They're not getting past Minnesota, and they might not even get past OKC in the second round. So, Charlotte, I think you've got a good coach. I think that there are Hornets fans who will support this new team. I say I think. I'll tell you this, they should, because that's what they need. The Hornets need support, but obviously, as I said, they have to do their part, right? They have to do their part. They've got their coach, who we believe is a good hire, but now it's up to the front office to say, hey, look, we've got a good coach. Hopefully the same thing the Panthers are doing. Hopefully the same thing that Canales is going to do. We've got a good coach, but now we've got to do our job and go out and be competitive in free agency. We've got to go draft well. That's what the Panthers didn't do. That's what the Hornets have not done. So I asked the question, what would it take for you to become a Hornets fan? And I also asked the question, and we'll come back to this later on in the program, but of the two Charlotte franchises, again, I'm going to ask the question and we'll get back to it because we've got to hit a break here shortly. But of the two Charlotte franchises, the Charlotte Hornets and the Carolina Panthers, in your opinion, texters, Tolos, you on the stream, live Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app, which Charlotte franchise will reach the pinnacle of success first in your opinion? Will it be the Hornets or will it be the Panthers? Both right now, I hate to say this, not trying to be Debbie Downer, but right now both of them are about as low as you can go. You can't get much worse than 2 wins, what the Panthers were last year, right? I said you can't get much worse. Obviously, you can go winless. Yeah, that can happen. We don't want it to happen, but it can happen. The Hornets, you can't get much worse than what they were last season and what they have been for a while now. So you let me know what Charlotte franchise, in your opinion, will reach the height of success again. So many ways for you to get in touch with the show. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Texter says, the way the NBA is currently set up, the Hornets will not win unless one thing happens. They have a magical draft close together. Drafts with an S. NBA players have too much power, says a texter from the 529. I'm sorry, that is from the 852. Again, text from the 852 says, the way the NBA is set up, the Hornets will not win unless one thing happens. They have two magical drafts close together. NBA players have too much power. What do you say? We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. Coming up next, there are so many national hosts that I do think do their job well. However, I think it's very obvious, for whatever reason, that right now, and maybe it's because it's the dog days, we're approaching the dog days of summer, Colin Cowherd has run out of content once again. Colin Cowherd has ran just slap out of content, and he desperately needs content. I just do not agree. I think this is silly. Find something else to talk about. What am I talking about? We'll hit it next. This is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate.
Los Angeles from GSP International Airport on Breeze Airways. Breeze Airways now offers.
UNC Chris weighs in on the conversation. He says, look, as much as I want the Hornets to do good, the Panthers, I have to say, the Panthers will get there first. The Hornets are older and have never came close to success. The Panthers are a younger franchise and have been there twice. Charlotte is just not a draw for big-time players in the NBA and never has been, says UNC Chris.
UNC Chris, I got to chime in on that one. I don't know if you remember the 90s, but the Charlotte Hornets were actually a very competitive team back in the 90s. They used to be quite often would be between the 3rd and the 5th seed in the playoffs year in and year out. And they had often bounced the Atlanta Hawks out of the playoffs back when they had, when the Atlanta Hawks had, Dominique Wilkins and Spud Webb. So I kind of have to disagree with them on that one, that they yes, they needed the championship because they had to deal with the MJs and the Scottie Pippins and the Isaiah Thomases. But I can tell you what, this team is going to look more and more like a championship caliber team within the next year or two if they continue to build around Brandon Miller.
All right, so I am not 110% always against Colin Cowherd. I think that there are some things that Cowherd says with most people that are good takes, and then there are some that I think, man, what is he even talking about? And listen, at the end of the day, Colin Cowherd, his job is entertainment. Our job is entertainment, okay? And Colin Cowherd understands that. And he is successfully doing his job because he's got radio shows talking about him like me. However, I think this is a little bit of a stretch. I think this is a little bit of a grab by Cowherd. He may need some of his content producers to do a better job of getting him some content. I know we're going into the dog days of summer, but a few, I don't know, maybe last year or so. I was going to say a few months, but I believe this was last year. Cowherd, if you had not heard this piece of audio, Cowherd had a problem with Brock Purdy wearing a backwards hat. Okay? How ridiculous does that sound? I want you to hear the audio. And I thought that, okay, this was a one-time stunt by Cowherd. He surely as heck won't bring this back up and won't continue to pound this into the ground. However, I was wrong, and this has surfaced again as of late. But I want you to first hear the original piece of audio from Cowherd. This will be cut to Brandon on his issue with Brock Purdy last season wearing a backwards hat.
That does make me pause on San Francisco. I'm a big believer. I like my quarterbacks to be adults. I don't want them to be frat boys. So Jalen Hurts at the podium is the best podium quarterback in the league. Hat on forward, professional, almost manicured, got that CEO like a real grown-up. Brock Purdy. Hey, you guys want to hit some golf balls? You got a hat on backwards. He's not a franchise quarterback. I mean, come on. If
So
that guy came
pull
to move
that,
your
go
couch-
ahead and kill that audio, Brendan. I've heard enough of that. Cowherd says you can't be a franchise quarterback because you had a hat on backwards, okay? He goes on and continues this rant about how Brock Purdy isn't a franchise quarterback like Jalen Hurts is because Brock Purdy was wearing a backwards hat to a post-game press conference, and you can't have your franchise quarterback wearing a backwards hat. What a valiant take, Colin. Well done. Well done. What a fantastic take. A lot of thought put into that. A lot of research. That one's fantastic, Colin. Incredible job. Really has a lot of weight. I'm sure everyone in America will agree that a franchise quarterback can't wear a backwards hat. You've done an incredible job on that one. Surely you're not going to bring it up again. Well, J.J. Redick, who, by the way, did interview for the Hornets job and didn't get it, as we were just talking about with Charlotte, J.J. Redick has a podcast with him and LeBron James. Very good podcast. They talk X's and O's. J.J. Redick, who is a very smart basketball mind, breaks down a lot of plays with LeBron on this podcast, and I enjoy it very much, being a basketball fan. On the podcast, guess what J.J. Redick did that pissed Colin Cowherd off? Well, he wore a backwards hat. Here's cut one, Brandon, on this recent take coming back to life from Cowherd.
Don't love the backward hat for J.J. Redick. I didn't hear a word LeBron said. I couldn't stop staring at the hat. J.J. Redick's going for NBA head coaching jobs. He looks like a guy that's going to move my couch. I would tell J.J. to his face, I'm like, dude, you're going to be an executive in this league. You're going to be a high-level executive or coach. Well, whatever. You guys can go ahead and push back on that stuff. I didn't like it. It's my opinion, my show. You are going to be an NBA coach. He's one of the most cerebral guys in the world talking basketball. Literally, he's so layered beyond. He's like he's Christopher Nolan in Hollywood. He is directing at a different level. J.J. Redick is talking basketball at a different level. And look at this guy. If I'm his agent, I'm like, you could be Steve Kerr. Like Steve Kerr was like a basketball player, then a great broadcaster, which J.J. is. Then a GM, then a coach. Then it's like, you look up and you're like, hell, Steve Kerr's the most powerful guy in the league. And then let's just drop it. No big deal. Hey, no big deal. I'm sure it's no big deal.
Why in the world does Colin Cowherd, again, I don't know if he just lacks content or he desperately wants these radio shows across the country like I'm doing to talk about him. I can't understand this at all other than what I just said and him wanting to create some clickbait, and that's exactly what he's done. But are we really going to pretend like he believes this? That's my problem. I always say everyone has different styles of doing radio. Everyone has different styles of doing their own broadcast. A lot of people will spew takes that they do not believe just to get clicks, just to create controversy, just to get people talking about the show. At the end of the day, this is the entertainment business, right? That is our job, to entertain and inform. However, I have always said I'm not going to take a step off of what I believe. I'm not going to waver off of what I believe, and that is I'm not going to make something up that I don't believe just to create a little stir in the pot. If I believe it, I will be passionate about it, okay? As I was yesterday at Ingles when talking about Dabo and the portal. I believe it. You can sense the passion. You can understand and you can hear through the radio that I really do believe what I'm saying, because there is a passion that you hear coming out of my voice. I'm not the guy to just act like I'm going to believe something just for you to start talking about me. Guess what? If that's what my boss wants me to do one day, I'll probably take a hike. I'm not going to create headlines and create ideologies and create beliefs just to get you buzzing. I'm going to tell you what I think, and if I believe it, I'll tell you. I'll be passionate about it. But I'm not going to make something up just to create headlines, and I truly do not believe, Brandon, I truly don't believe that Cowherd believes this. I truly believe that Cowherd is saying this to create headlines because there's no sane person, there's no sane human being who really believes that having your hat on backwards can't make you a franchise quarterback. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So, keep in mind, this is also a podcast that he's on. Is he supposed to wear a suit and tie on
Apparently
a podcast and, not look the way you'd be relaxed and comfortable? Look at LeBron James. LeBron James he had a ball cap on, but he had his basketball shorts on and a t-shirt.
Yep.
So, for Cowherd to be so adamant that the backwards ball cap is a big issue, I'm sorry, Colin, but no, it's not an issue. J.J. Redick, he is a phenomenal. I would love for him to be on Quinn Snyder, his coaching staff for the Atlanta Hawks. I think J.J. Redick is going to be a future Hall of Fame coach. And it really doesn't matter about a ball cap. I mean, we're talking about a ball cap, Colin. I understand it probably is just, for clicks and bait and whatever. But you know what, though? Shame on you for, picking out on just a ball cap being backwards.
Texter from the 432 says Joe Burrow had his hat on backwards at practice today. I saw that clip. Texter says, guess he's not a great quarterback. Well, Texter, guess what? According to Cowherd, you're probably right, Texter. According to Colin Cowherd, he's probably not, right? However, here's what Cowherd's not going to do. Cowherd's not going to conform to the narrative, because if Joe Burrow, who is a fantastic quarterback, and everyone can admit that, if Joe Burrow wears a hat backwards, and let's say Tom Brady wore a hat backwards, or Josh Allen, who I'm sure in his life has worn a hat backwards, Cowherd would look stupid, absolutely idiotic, if he said, oh, those guys aren't franchise quarterbacks because they're wearing a backwards hat, right? Then he would really look stupid, which he already does, in my opinion. The reason I'm upset about it, the reason I'm bringing it up is, again, what I was just referencing a moment ago. I don't have a problem with being passionate about something. I love passion. I love being passionate about the things that you believe in. There's a lot of things that I'm passionate about. However, I think people can read between the lines. I think people can pick up when you're BSing. I think people can tell through a radio or through a TV that this guy's really not being genuine. This guy's really not believing what he's saying. There's nothing wrong. Don't hear me wrong. There's nothing wrong with stirring the pot. There's nothing wrong at all with creating headlines. There's nothing wrong with that. Again, that is our job. However, I believe that Cowherd is saying this, and he deep down, he doesn't even believe this, because there's no way you can believe this. This is absolutely the dumbest thing that anyone has ever said, because wearing a backwards hat doesn't make you look like a franchise quarterback. That is just silly. Texter from the 419 says, I remember when Griffey Jr. caught hell for wearing his cap backwards. 600 home runs later, nobody cared. Texter from the 419, bingo. You said it right. 600 home runs later, no one cared. You're exactly right. Texter from the 903 says, this isn't surprising. He got suspended from ESPN for making up offensive comments. Sounds like he was probably a nerd growing up that couldn't pull off. Let me click on the text so I can see the entire text. Sounds like he was a nerd growing up that couldn't pull off wearing the backwards hat look. Very good chance of it. To put a bow on it, I don't have a problem believing something. However, there's no way you can convince me that Cowherd actually believes this. All right, coming up in the very next segment, I have this piece of audio for you that I found quite hilarious. But I ask you, the listener, I ask you, the Tolo, is this fair or is this unfair? What did this sister do to her younger sister at a softball game that has the internet buzzing? I'll tell you next.
Number 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Diesel's out today. He will be back tomorrow. However, he's doing a little concerting. I don't even know if that's a word or not, but he is traveling to Charlotte for a concert today. Hope he has a blast. Texter from the 345 wants to chime in on the last conversation. He says, Cole, I say he or she, whoever you are. Texter says, Cole, you're 100% dead on. We can sniff BS when we hear it, and we heard. I'm not going to read that part. Texter, we don't hear it on Wire to Wire. Love the new show. Appreciate you texting in. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. This I found comical. I asked the question, though, is this funny or is this a little too far? An older sister, and this will be cut 3, Brendan. An older sister changed. I can't even say it without laughing. The older sister changed her younger sister's walk-up song at her softball game because her younger sister had been in a little bit of a slump. So, as you can imagine, this could get unfair. This could be really, really funny. As I said, I think it's pretty hilarious. Here is what I'm talking about. Here is what the older sister changed the younger sister's walk-up song to while she was in a little bit of a slump.
Number 30, Crystal.
You've been swinging and missing. It ain't broke yet, but damn, it needs
Oh my
fixing.
gosh.
Been a while since you kissed, felt like
That is just absolutely hilarious. Swinging and Missing, the country song. You may have heard it. That is what her older sister did, as her younger sister, as I said, wasn't hitting the ball well. That audio is fantastic, first of all. But I ask you, is that funny or is that a little too far? Because I think it's pretty funny. I think today we have to have thick skin. You have to have there's too many people that live in this world that get their feelings hurt over everything. So you have to have thick skin. But to put that walk-up song on your sister's softball team for the entire ballpark to hear, I think it's hilarious. Let's hear it one more time, Brandon. Swinging and Missing. I've heard the song before. It is a country song, but having this as the walk-up song.
and missing. It ain't broke yet, but damn, it needs fixing. Been a while since you
That is hilarious. That is hilarious. I asked the question, number 1, is it fair or is it too far? Number 2, what walk-up song or song in general is the best to play, the most insulting, I guess I should say, for an opposing team?
Ooh.
And we'll have to think about this.
That's
We'll come back to
that's
it.
definitely a thought pondering question. I mean, did you have a walk-up song?
No, I didn't play at a high enough level. I quit playing baseball around the middle school age, so I don't think we had walk-up songs when I played. But you know,
you're not that old though. Come on now.
I would think it's comical though.
Well, if you look at the video, the sister, she's just like, okay, whatever.
She didn't really
faze her.
It didn't seem like she, she was offended by it. She didn't seem like she cared that her sister did that. But I think that's fantastic. So I asked the question, what would be the most insulting walk-up song or song in general to play for an opposing team? If you were the PA announcer, if you had full control of the music. I mean, I've heard some pretty good ones. I've heard teams taking infield before to, I can't remember exactly the name of the song, but it was a super female type song to where it was talking about girls and females, and it may be like a Taylor Swift or something like that. It was a super girly song, rather. That's the better way to put it.
So Cassie played softball her entire life. Well, her maiden name is G-E-E. And when she went to bat, they play 50 Cent G-Unit, and they call her G-Money or G-Unit.
I like it. Texter says, that was hilarious. All is fair and sister on sister crime. I would agree with that, Texter. It's not too far from me. Again, I have thick skin. I like poking fun. And when you're in a little bit of a slump and you play Swinging and Missing Come on. That's
Actually, the song
pretty
is Rock in a Hard Place by Bailey Zimmerman.
Yeah, Bailey Zimmerman. That's pretty good. It's pretty good, pretty clever from the older sister. Hats off to her. That was fantastic. All right, coming up next, we are joined by Odyssey MLB Insider. Who am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about Bob Nightengale. Bob freaking Nightengale. If you're a baseball fan, you know who Bob Nightengale is. He's a columnist for USA Today. You can find him on Twitter at @BNightingale. 449,000 followers on Twitter. Been doing it for a while now and does a fantastic job. We'll talk baseball and Braves with Bob Nightengale next on the Fan Upstate.
find sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
On the Fan Upstate.
It is Wire to Wire, the newest show right here in the upstate of South Carolina. I am Cole Bryson. So glad to be with you on this Thursday afternoon. A little bit rainy, a little bit dampy outside, dreary, if you will. But guess what? It's a great day here on the Fan. Glad to have you along. During this next segment, you can get your thoughts in on the text line. If you have questions or comments, 713-07. Start your text with the word FAN. That way we will see what you have to say. I want to bring in our first guest of the program now. We're joined by Odyssey MLB insider Bob Nightengale. Insider calls are presented by Grainger. With supplies and solutions for every industry, Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. He is columnist for USA Today, Major League Baseball, Bob Nightengale. Bob, first time talking to you. Thanks so much for hopping on, man.
Yeah, sure. My pleasure.
Excited to get into Braves. Obviously, us being in a Braves market, Bob, a lot of Braves fans have questions for you. But before we do get into the Atlanta Braves, I want to ask if the black cloud, in your opinion, Bob, on the Shohei Ohtani situation with his former translator, has the black cloud passed, in your opinion, or will this be something that looms over baseball for years to come?
No, I think it's passed. And the only way it would come up is if the bookie, said something to the federal government, saying, well, wait a minute now, he wasn't acting alone. Then it would be a different animal. But right now, everybody seems very confident that was just a kind of rogue employee who had a bad gambling problem.
What do you think the reason is that so many people, Bob, still will refuse to admit that Shohei had no involvement? Like, we get a lot of text and feedback on our show, and I see things on social media where plenty of people out there still to this day are saying, I just don't believe Shohei was involved. What are your thoughts on those people that say those things?
Well, I can see the skepticism for sure. One is, okay, how do you not know $16, $17 million was, missing from your bank account? The other thing was, hey, if it's your best friend, you didn't detect any changes in personality, or, either, a guy very angry when he lost a big bet or very happy when he won one. Ohtani's a smart guy. It's not like he's, some kid that, didn't know any better. He's got a brilliant mind. So I think that's where the skepticism, comes in. And, it's natural to be skeptical about it.
Bob Nightengale joining us on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. Bob, I want to get to a tweet that you put out that I thought was fascinating and funny at the same time. You tweeted out yesterday that the Dodgers may be winning, but they are killing beer sales. They played 5 games in 225 or less, including yesterday at 1 hour and 55 minutes. You went on to say the last time the Dodgers had a longer streak of 225 or less was July 25th to 29th in 1977, which is incredibly fascinating. But I want to ask you, do you think that we have settled in to where the pitch clock is here to stay and there won't be any more adjustments in the future? Or from what you've heard from around the league and the people that you're in the circles with, do you think that this is something that could be adjusted in the future?
No, I think it's definitely here to stay. If there's an adjustment, maybe it's by 1 second either way, just like MLB decided instead of 20 seconds with runners on base, let's go to 18 seconds. So, unless there's a very minor adjustment like that, it's definitely here to stay. I mean, players like it, fans love it, TV audience loves it. Like I said, the people that don't, it's like, the alcohol, beer sales. It's like if you're cutting sales off after the 7th inning, then you're talking about you better guzzle pretty quickly. You only get about an hour 45 to do it.
I want to go to Tommy John and Bob. I know you've probably heard about this for ever since the pitch clock was brought to MLB a few years ago. But in your opinion, do you think that there is any correlation between the injuries that we've seen and the pitch clock? Because every time an injury happens, every time someone goes down, for example, here in the upstate, mostly Braves fans, Spencer Strider went out toward the beginning of the season, and now he's in the same surgery that he had when he was in college, having to have it for the second time. In your opinion, any correlation, or will a Tommy John surgery have any effect on the pitch clock in the future?
I really don't think it had a direct correlation. I'm not saying there might not have been a case or two, but, we had this rash of injuries the last few years, well before the pitch clock. Things were getting alarming. I just think it's the way these guys get brought up. Throw as hard as you can. If you blow out, you blow out. At least you got your money before before you have your Tommy John surgery, and miss a year and a half, 2 years. So no, it's been going on for too long just to all of a sudden blaming the pitch clock.
Insider calls are brought to you by Grainger for the ones who get it done. Grainger offers professional-grade supplies and solutions made for every industry and backed by product experts. Click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Bob Nightengale with USA Today joining the program on the Fan Upstate on this Thursday afternoon. Bob, at the very beginning of the season, we had a Braves reporter come on this very program that said that, in his opinion, this was the most talented lineup that Atlanta has ever had, top to bottom. And then last week, we saw what LA did to the Braves. So my question to you is, can Braves fans expect LA to be the thorn in their side that keeps them from making a World Series appearance? Or do you have a message of hope for Atlanta Braves fans?
Yeah, anything can happen in the postseason. I don't think anybody saw, the Phillies knocking off Atlanta, both years like they did. Nobody saw the Diamondbacks getting to the World Series and knocking off, the Dodgers and Philadelphia, particularly Philadelphia. So no, anything can happen. Yeah, the Dodger lineup is very good, but so is Atlanta's. Olsen isn't going to continue to struggle. Austin Riley's not going to continue to struggle. Yeah, on the flip side, I'm not sure, Marcell Ozuna can keep this up too. He's been unbelievable, almost like, Triple Crown type numbers. So we'll see what happens. But no, there's no reason in the world. It always comes down to pitching anyway. Then I think it's almost a coin flip if you go between Atlanta, Philadelphia, and LA.
And what's funny about that, Bob, is we've said on this program, and even as a Braves fan, look, the Braves have for several years now dominated the regular season. The Braves fans, the least of their concern needs to be, in my opinion, the least of their concern needs to be being the best team in baseball. What I mean is, we've seen the last few years that hasn't always translated into the postseason, especially for Atlanta. Philadelphia, who's been a team of magical runs lately, the 2 years, that they've made the runs, Atlanta was still at the top of the division. I think it's interesting that you can, and I don't know if it's because of the layoffs and how many days you have of rest after winning the division, but it's interesting that Braves fans are still upset the fact that they're not being the best, or that they're not playing like the best team in baseball, even though we've preached over and over that that's not necessarily your end goal.
No, remember a few years ago, San Francisco had the best record in baseball, 107 wins. And then they get knocked out by the Dodgers for first round. The Dodgers finished about 20 games up on the Padres a couple of years ago, 2 years ago, and the Padres knocked them off in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter. The big thing is you want to win your division. You'll get the little break, but you want to be healthy in the playoffs. And it all comes down to pitching. You need that starting pitching and the bullpen to be lights out. That's why Atlanta won the World Series a few years ago. That's why Houston Astros did the same thing the year after.
Bob Nightengale joining the program right here on the Fan Upstate. He is a columnist, Major League Baseball columnist for USA Today, Hall of Fame voter, as well as an Odyssey MLB radio insider. We saw that Paul Skeens was called up from the Pittsburgh Pirates, and I believe he will be making his debut on Saturday, Bob. But I have a question for you with two young players. One is Paul Skeens, but the other is Jackson Holliday. In your opinion, who finds and maintains success in the big leagues quicker, Paul or Jackson?
Well, I'll go Paul Skeens just because Jackson struggled, and I think he's still struggling a little bit at AAA the last I saw. Skeens is no reason why, as long as he stays healthy, why his stuff can't, play in the major league level. It's a big jump from AAA to major leagues. Scouts will tell you a bigger jump than ever due to the disparity where a lot of guys, come up and struggle just because AAA doesn't have that same kind of pitching talent. So that being said, we'll see how Skeens stuff plays. But he was so dominant in college and everything else. So I'll go Skeens.
I like it. I figured that would be your answer, Bob, as I would agree with you as well, and maybe a little easier on a pitcher's game to translate into the majors like you're talking about. But I want to end with this, Bob, before we let you go, because I know you're in a busy day. We appreciate you taking time to join us on the Fan Upstate. But Mike Trout, once again finds himself on the injury list. I want to know, in your opinion, how bad have his injuries, Bob, not only affected his career of being one of the best to ever do it, but also how have those injuries affected the MLB and their inability to market Mike as the face of the MLB?
Well, a lot of times with the marketing, it's how much you want to be out there. Mike's a private guy. He doesn't really, want to be out there. You don't see him self-promoting and stuff like that. The guys that self-promote, guys, don't even have close to his talent. Guys like Jazz Chisholm, those type of guys. So you're not seeing Mike Trout flip his bat and go on all kinds of TV shows and stuff like that. That's the way he wanted it. And that's fine. Yes, too bad with the injuries. I mean, for a while there, he and Mike Trout's numbers were almost identical. Mike Trout and Mickey Mantle's numbers were almost identical. I talked to Ken Griffey Jr. about this last week. He's being compared to Willie Mays. Same thing. The injuries just hit. It's tough to be a center fielder. Yes, you a tough position. You're running all the time. As Griffey says, there's no foul balls hit the center field. So I think it's just a deal where, the playing center field takes a toll of his body. Close to home, look at Andrew Jones, how amazing he was for those 10, 11 years in Atlanta. Then he was a shell of himself after that.
What has Bob Nightengale learned as we're about 2/10 of the way through the MLB season? What stood out most to you in this early part of the season, Bob?
Well, I think a Juan Soto, how well he's done. I mean, he wasn't that same type of player in San Diego. He can make that whole offense work by himself, and for them to be hanging around with that record they do without Garrett Cole, it can be scary. I didn't foresee Ranger Suarez of Philadelphia, be the best number 3 starter in baseball. No, he would be scary in the postseason. Then some teams like, Kansas City lost, over 100 games, 3 straight years. Now they're actually, a legitimate contender in the AL Central. And, Milwaukee Brewers, they lose trade Corbin Burns, lose Brandon Woodruff, lose their all-star closer Devin Williams, and they're tied right there in the NL Central with the Cubs. So I think there's been more surprises than disappointments.
Bob, appreciate you for coming on the program today. It really means a lot. Love talking Braves, love talking baseball, and thanks so much for your time.
Sure, my pleasure. Thank you.
That's Bob Nightengale. That was Odyssey MLB Insider. Bob Nightengale. Insider calls are presented by Grainger, with supplies and solutions for every industry. Grainger has the right product for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. A lot of reaction to what Bob had to say. I think that the question that I asked him about the Braves and if the LA Dodgers would continue to be the thorn in the Braves side, I think that was probably the most interesting answer to me, because he is right. At the end of the day, it does come down to pitching. And the Braves, we know that they took a blow early in the season with one of their best pitchers, one of the best pitchers in the game going down. It doesn't help them. But what should encourage you, what you should look at as a Braves fan and think, oh, well, maybe everything will still be okay, is like what you saw last night with Chris Sale. And Chris Sale, 10 strikeouts last night, super dominant against his former team. That is what, Brandon, should encourage you.
I want to chime in on this with Chris Sale. I don't know if you saw that after he was traded to Atlanta, he came out about a month later and did a story saying they asked, "How do you feel? How do you feel as far as like healthy wise?" He said, "This is the healthiest I've been in my entire career since coming to Atlanta, and so far, knock on wood, he continues because look at how dominating he is." And with the game, I mean, I'm thoroughly impressed. Now I'm starting to believe this was the right move by Anthopoulos to get Chris Sale on the team.
If we've learned one thing, we know that we can trust AA. If we've learned one thing as a Braves fan base, we know that we can't point fingers or push blame at AA, because without AA, Braves fans, you don't have a championship in 21. The moves that he made at the trade deadline in 2021 are what single-handedly, literally won you a championship. The players that he brought in literally won you a championship. So I've never been in the, hey, let's blame ownership group under AA. I've been thoroughly pleased with what he's done, and I think that he will continue to keep this Braves team in prime position. Again, thanks to Bob Nightengale for taking time to join us. Super busy day for him, as always, so it means a lot that he had time to hop on with us. JD on the stream says, great interview. What's up, Nick? Also, a few others. Wesley joining in on the stream. Appreciate you all for joining us today. Also, a couple of texts that we have to get to. Our listeners, Brandon, when you played the audio from the softball game, we got a lot of interaction on the text line.
Can I play it again?
Yes, for the audience that just tuned in, because I know we've had some that have just joined us. I want to play that audio again because this, to me, is hilarious. I want to know from you, though, from those that have just tuned in, just got in your car, let us know, is this fair or is this a little too far? Freaking hilarious clip of audio right here. The older sister changed her younger sister's walk-up song because the younger sister was in a little bit of a slump.
Number 30, Crystal.
You've been swinging and missing. It ain't broke yet, but damn, it needs fixing. Been a while since you kissed, felt like
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Bailey Zimmerman, credit there on the song. A couple of texts that we got to get to about that piece of audio. Texter says, I played AAA baseball, and we had a PA announcer play These Boots Are Made for Walking when the visiting team went to the bullpen. I love that. I like that a lot. Another texter says, I'm a Barbie girl would be hilarious. That may have been one of the songs that I was thinking about, texter. That comes from the 312. That may have been one of the songs that I was referencing earlier when a team would come out to take the infield. A girly song, something like I'm a Barbie girl. I think that's a perfect fit. Another texter says, Hell's Bells or the Undertaker theme song. That'd be a good one if you were trying to motivate your team.
What about Shake It Off by Taylor Swift? If she's in a slump and strike out too, shake it off, shake it off. I mean, that'd be a good opportunity for her too.
I like Shake It Off. There was one I heard at a high school game the other night that was pretty funny. And of course, I can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but you can get very creative with these walk-up songs. And I love the audio that we just played. Shake It Off. It would be a good one as well, Brandon. But when your little sister is in a slump,
you got to make fun of her somehow.
You got to throw a little shade. You got to be a little bit comical with it. And to play that song by Bailey Zimmerman, Swinging and Missing, that is absolutely fantastic.
Well, like I told you, Cassie had the 50 Cent G Unit because of her last name being G before she got married.
That's great. That's great. Coming up next, we will update you on the Daily Wires. What happened last night? Clemson football has an addition to their coaching staff. And guess where that addition came from? You'll be intrigued to hear that and a lot more coming up next right here on the Fan Upstate. and Diesel go live on location. Special guest coach Shane Beamer will be in the house sharing insights and insider information. Don't miss out on this exclusive event. Get your tickets now at thegamecockclub.com. And remember, for the highest quality of glass products for your home or business, call Kapasi Glass Mart today. Join us at the Lodge at Lake Bowen Commons on Tuesday, May 17th for the Gamecock Club meeting, sponsored by Grass Bros Turf and Pest Management. Get ready to show your Gamecock pride at the ultimate fan experience. Experience the excitement as the Fan Upstate's own Wire to Wire with myself, Cole Bryson, and Diesel goes live on location. Special guest coach Shane Beamer will be in the house sharing insights and insider information. Don't miss out on this exclusive event. Get your tickets now at thegamecockclub.com. And remember, when you need a pro for turf and pest management, call the bros at Grass Bros. Visit grassbrosturf.com today.
Hi, Discover. It's Jennifer Coolidge, and your cashback match has inspired me.
Great. We love doubling the cashback you earn at the end of your first year.
I'm doubling everything now. I'm double dating. I'm double dipping.
Discover cashback match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Hi, we're Comparion Insurance Agency. Never heard of us? We know. But to help it stick that our local agents are insurance experts, we're going to say local agent 3 times in the next 5 seconds. Local agent, local agent, local agent.
Find us at ComparionInsurance.com.
It's bow time. Get 2 sausage Bowberry biscuits for $5 at Bojangles for a limited time.
It's bow time. The sausage Bowberry biscuit isn't just a menu hack anymore. So come try a made-from-scratch Bowberry biscuit topped with sizzling sausage, because it's about time sweet meets savory. For a limited time, get 2 for just $5 at Bojangles. It's bow time.
Text 71307. Keyword fan.
And connect with Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire. This is the Fan Upstate.
Diesel is out today. I am Cole Bryson. He will be back tomorrow. I think Diesel is enjoying a nice concert up in Charlotte tonight. So he'll be back in the house tomorrow. Cole Bryson with you this afternoon right here on the Fan Upstate. Brandon running the board on the second day in a row, as we had a great time yesterday at Ingles on the west side. Thanks again to all of those that came out and said hello. We appreciate it. The Braves got back on the winning side of things with the last 2 nights. They played Boston, had been in a little bit of a slump, but the Braves were able to win 2 in a row. Chris Sale last night was just magical. 10 strikeouts and a shutout as the Braves try to get a little bit of a streak going. Try to get out of that slump that they found themselves in. This is the Daily Wires. You may call them headlines or think of them as headlines, but on this program, we call them Daily Wires. It's the buzz, the latest things happening that you need to know about. Ozuna last night had himself a night. As you heard our guest Bob Nightengale talk about, the question is, can Ozuna continue this incredible tear that he's on? I'm going to get to cut 4 and 5 here, Brandon. Let's hear the first home run, cut 4, from Ozuna last night.
Marcell Ozuna lifts this deep to right field, and it is gone! A big fly for the Big Bear, and it's 3-0 Atlanta.
We probably should not be surprised. Marcell Ozuna, that is now the 5th home run that he has against Nick Pivetta in 25 at-bats. He has swung the bat very well against him and comfortable, but this one extremely impressive as he goes to the opposite field.
And cut 5.
Marcell Ozuna gets into this to center field. Does he have another one? He does! And he goes past Ohtani to lead Major League Baseball with 12 round trippers.
This really has been incredible to watch this season for Marcell. He gets something that he could pull here, left center field, and a big one, 413 feet.
So the Big Bear, 2 at-bats, 2 home runs.
So Ozuna from the Braves is having himself a tear of a year. We know that there's a lot of Braves who have been struggling. We know that Austin Riley's been struggling. We know that the first baseman, the word struggling with Matt Olson may be a little bit too minimum, a little bit more than struggling, as Matt Olson has really just not been able to hit the ball at all. Struggling may not be the correct word to use there, but let's see if Ozuna can stay hot enough to keep the Braves afloat. Some more daily wires. The Phoenix Suns, have fired Coach Frank Vogel after his first and only season in Phoenix. So that didn't last very long. On the college football front, former South Carolina defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward is joining who? The other side. Lorenzo Ward joining the staff at Clemson as an off-the-field special assistant to the head coach. So Dabo going across enemy lines to grab Lorenzo Ward. Again, he was the former defensive coordinator from South Carolina. Lorenzo Ward now a Clemson Tiger. Very, very interesting hire for Dabo Swinney. Atlanta is off tonight, and now they are 2 games back in the NL East with last night's win. The New York Knicks defeated the Indiana Pacers last night 130-121 to take a commanding 2-0 series lead. In the NHL last night, the Panthers defeated the Bruins 6-1 to tie the series, and Vancouver defeated Edmonton last night 5-4 to take a 1-0 series lead there. Tonight in the NBA, the Boston Celtics host the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 2 of the Eastern Conference semifinals, and OKC in the 9:30 game host Dallas. I made a prediction that did not come to fruition on, Tuesday, I believe. I did pick Dallas to cover the 3.5 points they were favored by. They did not. Oklahoma City really ran shop on Dallas. So we'll see if Dallas can bounce back tonight. 2 games in the NBA. Also, another piece of breaking news, in case you missed it in the very first segment, the Charlotte Hornets have found their new head coach. After going through another Steve Clifford era, the Hornets have hired Celtics assistant Charles Lee. Charles Lee is still an assistant with the Celtics, so he will not be coming to Charlotte quite yet. Whenever the Celtics choke in the postseason, he will then come down to Charlotte to be the next coach of the Hornets. All kidding aside, I know I was joking about the Celtics choking as they always do in the postseason, but he'll finish the season however far they go, and then the Charlotte Hornets will have their next head coach. I asked the question in the very first segment of the show when we were talking about Charles Lee being the new coach of the Charlotte Hornets. And I want to bring this question back up again to our audience. Phone lines are open right now until we hit a break. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Text line open as well, 71307. Whenever you text us, start your text with the word FAN, and we will see what you have to say. I asked the question. Both Charlotte teams now have new head coaches. Which Charlotte team, in your opinion, will reach the pinnacle of success first? New head coach in Canales with the Panthers, new quarterback, new head coach with the Charlotte Hornets and Charles Lee, a piece to build around in Brandon Miller. Canales has a piece to build around in Bryce Young. I made the comparison earlier in the program that both are in a similar situation because they both have a young star that should be a decent star in their respective league. However, they need to both really be intentional about surrounding Bryce Young and Brandon Miller with the Hornets with plenty of talent, not also talent, but pieces that will attract other free agents to Charlotte. That goes for the football team as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. Let's go to Rick, who wants to chime in on the conversation. Rick, what's up, man?
I've got one trivia question for you. Let's see if you can answer it, okay?
This will be tough.
What has Army, Air Force, Navy, and the Clemson Tigers have in common?
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Now, what human on this earth, Rick, would be able to answer that question? I have no idea. Even I'm trying to think. I'm doing my best job right now of thinking what the answer to your question would be. But Rick, I apologize. I cannot come up with an answer.
Well,
What is it?
I'll answer it for you.
Okay.
It's the only 4 teams in football this year that didn't take a transfer in. The only 4 teams in football. You got them.
Rick, I appreciate that. That's interesting. Not good news for Clemson fans, but love the information.
No, it's not. Can Clemson not get out of their own way? I mean, do they not understand the portal?
Well, Rick, we talked about this yesterday while we were on site at Ingles over in Spartanburg. And listen, it's sad because there are other coaches like Brian Kelly at LSU who are saying the same things. But no, the answer to your question is no. Clemson refuses to get out of their own way right now. And my whole point the entire time, Rick, has been, look, it doesn't matter if you agree with the modern era of college football, if you agree with NIL, if you agree with the transfer portal. It doesn't matter if you even agree with it. You have to use it. You have to be a benefactor of the system. And Dabo, not only is he disagreeing, he's refusing to use it.
Well, let me tell you, just think about that. The only 4 teams in football that did not take a transfer in. That is ludicrous. I heard that, and I just wanted to let Diesel and you know that.
Well, Rick, we appreciate your call, and always will take any information you have to give. That is a great piece of information, but it's not an encouraging piece of information for the Clemson fans out there. That's Rick on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. You can reach the show there as well. Anytime, 844-FAN phone. That's 844-326-3663. Brandon, I want to ask you, which Charlotte franchise will reach the pinnacle of success first, the Panthers or the Hornets?
So what I'm going to go ahead and say, and everybody knows that I am an Atlanta Falcons fan, but I'm going to say between the two, we've already said, I think Brandon Miller, give them a year or two, and we'll see Charlotte in the playoffs more competitive. But I think the team that reaches the ultimate level first will be the Panthers.
I think so too. Now, it'll take a long time, in my opinion, for both of them or either of them to get there. I really believe that. I'm not talking about something that's going to happen here in the next year or two. But if I had to pick one, I would say the Carolina Panthers with Bryce Young, regardless of how people feel about Bryce, regardless of people who will say, well, they made the wrong pick. And listen, I agree with you. They did make the wrong pick, in my opinion. The pick they should have made is now residing in Houston. Regardless of how you feel about Bryce and the pick that they made, I think for the most part, everyone could admit that the Panthers probably should reach success first, quicker than the Hornets. The Hornets are at rock bottom, and again, the Panthers only won 2 games last year, so they're right there with the Hornets. Okay, they're right there at the bottom, sitting on those rocks, saying, "Hey, man, it's nice down here, isn't it? 2 wins. I mean, are you kidding me? I don't know. I'm not really sure what's worse, the Carolina Panthers record last year or the Charlotte Hornets record. Both were pitiful. The Panthers only won 2 games this past season in 2023. The Hornets went 21-61. So when you're comparing, the Hornets had a .256 winning percentage. The Carolina Panthers won 2 games. They're both at rock bottom, okay? They are both at the bottom. The only direction you can go from here is up. Trey, on the stream. Trey, good to see you, my man. He says Charlotte and Carolina are winning championships next season, in parentheses, on my PS5. That would probably be, Trey, the only way it could happen. And then even at that point, Trey, I would say, look, you must be a heck of a gamer because I wouldn't even bet on Charlotte and Carolina winning a championship on your PS5. They stink so bad. They stink so bad, I wouldn't bet on it. JD says, I would honestly say Hornets make the playoffs first. Well, let me think about that, JD. The Hornets making the playoff before the Panthers do. In the Eastern Conference, I don't know that I disagree with you because I'll say this. The Hornets, the Hornets finished 13th, okay, with a 21-61 record. The Charlotte Hornets finished third worst in the NBA, only ahead of the Wizards and the Pistons. If they would have finished 10th, like the Atlanta Hawks did, they would have made the play-in. The Hawks were 36-46 this season. So I would probably agree with you, JD, in saying that the Hornets make the playoffs first because, to be honest, they only have to win, 15 more games. So you win 15 more games, excuse me, and you make the playoffs because the Eastern Conference, the bottom half, is not very strong. The Panthers, in order to win the playoffs, winning the division, I don't see that happening, not with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. They'd have to be a wild card. And as bad as that division is, let's be honest, they're probably not going to take a wild card from the South anyways. So, yeah, I'd agree, JD. I'd agree. He also says, I think the Hornets may have better pieces just because we don't know about Bryce Young yet, but the head coach is a question for both. I'd say on the head coaching front, real quick before we hit a break, I think the Panthers and the Hornets both made a good hire. I do. I think Canales, they needed an offensive mind, and I think that Dan Morgan is going to do a good job of getting the right people in place, regardless of what the crazy owner tries to do. And I think Charles Lee, who just got hired in Charlotte, I think that's a good hire. He was with Mike Budenholzer. Mike Budenholzer is a fantastic coach, and I think that's a good hire there as well. A good hire there as well. All right, coming up next, I will give you my season wrap-up prediction for Clemson baseball. Where do I see the Tigers finishing the regular season? But also, where do I see the Tigers making it in the postseason? I am Cole Bryson. This is Wire to Wire. Get your thoughts in on the text line 71307 right here on the Fan Upstate.
If you work a 9 to 5, but you think you know better than career coaches making 100 times your salary, you're listening to the right show.
This It's Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Glad to have you along on this Thursday edition of Wire to Wire. It is a number 2 because there's 2 of us. Diesel, however, is not making the 2 complete today as he is out today, but will be back tomorrow. So many ways for you to get in touch with the show. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We've had a lot of texts come in on the walk-up song. That must have it must have resonated with a lot of you in a very significant way. We will continue to talk about that walk-up song, and I'll play that for you again later in the show if you missed it. But a fantastic piece of audio. We did mention that South Carolina former defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward is joining the Clemson football staff, which I think is super fascinating. He's not going to be in a major on-the-field role, as he will just be in a special assistant to the head coach. But it is an interesting hire. Phone lines open as well. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. Let's go to JD in Simpsonville. What's up, man?
Hey, Cole. Well, thank you for taking my call, sir. I wanted to hear what you were going to say about Clemson baseball before you took my call. So, you were just talking about them going into the postseason and stuff there. So why don't you rattle that off for me real quick?
Well, you want me to do the entire segment in 30 seconds? Is that what you're asking?
Well, no, like I said, I just wanted to hear what you were going to say, and then I was going to also mention, the Gamecock expectations.
No, you go ahead. You go first. I'm a gentleman. I'll let you go first. We'll start with Gamecocks. By the way, JD, we will have Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central on at 5:20 to talk Gamecock baseball, but you go ahead. What do you have on regarding the Gamecocks?
Okay, first of all, I'll be a Tolo. I'll be tuned in at 5:20,
yes.
Of course.
Thank you.
But yeah, so what I'm thinking though on the Gamecocks, obviously I've said it before. We needed to go 7-2 in these last 9 SEC series games. Which, granted, I think Missouri was the one that we should have swept, and so we really got to get ourselves into prime positioning, like the highest seed possible. So if we go into these last 2 games against Georgia and Tennessee, which obviously Tennessee being number 1, another number 1 opponent that we have to play this year, I'm just really scared that we're going to end up maybe losing these 2 series. We're going to end up with a lower seed than what we were actually hoping for. We still maybe host a regional. But that's the whole thing, though, about Mark Kingston and everything that's frustrated me so much. So, like, the Gamecock expectation for baseball is College World Series. It's been that way ever since we've won back-to-back and went to a 3rd in a row. And so, to me, hosting a regional every year is like going 8-4 in football and being like, oh, yeah, we're 8-4. We made a bowl game. Great. And so, to me, hosting a regional and then losing in the super regional is a disappointment. And that, to me, is why I need Mark Kingston to step up. I mean, he can do it. We've got the talent on the team, but we've certainly got to put ourselves in prime position starting tonight against Georgia.
Well, listen, we'll talk about South Carolina right here. I'll push Clemson off till 5 o'clock because I want to stop on this for a second because I want to comment on 2 things. Number one, you say it's y'all's expectation, the expectation to be in Omaha. Well, guess what? 80 other teams feel the exact same way. However, it's very, very hard to get there. Then to your point about the regional being the same as going 8-4, does 8-4 put you in the playoffs?
No.
Okay, when you make a regional, you're 5 wins away from being in the College World Series. And hosting a regional is a huge advantage. So, listen, I understand that you and others are frustrated with Kingston because he has been there 7 years. He has been to a couple of supers, but he hasn't gotten Carolina to where Ray Tanner did. All I'm saying is a lot of teams, a lot of really good teams like Georgia, like Tennessee, like A&M, at the end of the year, they're going to be in the same place that South Carolina is. I just don't always think that means firing your coach. However, if you're telling me, JD, that there's somebody out there that you think and South Carolina thinks could get them over the hump that Kingston can't, I'll listen to it. I'll be open to it, but I want to hear who that is first.
Right. Well, now listen, you trying to get me to do research that I haven't done yet. Now, and granted, that's not my job to do. Ray Tanner, to me, that's something that he should always be forward thinking about. And that's one of the issues I think a lot of people have with Ray Tanner is some of the coaching hires he's made.
Yeah.
And what's really strange to me, though, is Ray Tanner as a baseball coach, he had everything set up. He had a successor in place when he took the AD role in Holbrook. And the culture in place and the players were there. Back-to-back national championships, a third CWS appearance. And so it's just really crazy to me that Ray Tanner somehow has found a way to hire better basketball coaches than he has baseball. But Cole, I'll let you run, man. Thanks for taking my call. Y'all have a good one. Brad,
Yeah, man.
Always love. Y'all have a good one.
Thanks for the call, JD. 844-FAN phone. They will be open again. The phone lines will be open again in the next segment. And then we'll have Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central join us at 5:20 to go a little bit more in depth on South Carolina baseball. To wrap up what my conversation with JD had to entail, I'll say this. Does Kingston have to get South Carolina over the hump? Yes, he does. Okay. Everyone knows that South Carolina's expectations are Omaha or bust. However, like I said, there are a lot of teams who have those same expectations. And if it were easy to get to Omaha, if it was something that was so simple, there would be no coaches getting fired. There would be no coaches being hired because every coach would be getting there. However, it's not that easy. I like Kingston. I understand Gamecock fans are frustrated and they want every coach to be exactly like Ray Tanner and they want every coach to be as good as Ray Tanner. But one thing that I think people have to just remember, Ray Tanner's a Hall of Fame baseball coach. Ray Tanner doesn't grow on trees. If he did, there'd be a lot of people with Ray Tanner's and winning College World Series. But what he did in such a short period, it's hard to replicate. Coming up next, we will get back to Clemson baseball, but I also want to take a look at the Panthers running back room. They signed another running back. How many running backs will they have on the field at one time? Find out. Coming up next on the Fan Upstate.
Breaking news. We break the mold.
This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Unique and unlike any other sports talk
All right,
show. It's better.
Greenville.
W246CV Spartanburg.
Upstate.
An Odyssey Sports Station. You ready?
Let's go.
It's alive! Alive in the left center field.
Touchdown! From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire.
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
On the Fan Upstate.
It is a Tolo Thursday edition of Wire to Wire. You ask, what is a Tolo? What is Tolo? I've heard that word thrown around on this program. Well, I'm glad you asked. If you were curious, that stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. That's what we ask you to do right here on Wire to Wire. Turn it on, leave it on, 3 to 7 every day. I'm Cole Bryson. Diesel will be back tomorrow on this very program. Good friend of the show, David Newton, who we had on just a couple of weeks ago, I believe the day before the NFL draft. David Newton has a new article on ESPN.com about the Carolina Panthers backfield. Well, if you saw just a few days ago, the Panthers agreed to a deal with veteran running back Rashad Penny. Seems like anytime you add a veteran running back to your running back room, it would be a good thing, right? Well, I don't know the question. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the answer to that question because here's the problem. The Carolina Panthers, Dave Canales, now has a pretty crowded running back room. Miles Sanders, Chuba Hubbard, Raheem Blackshear, your NFL draft pick, Jonathan Brooks. And now you add Rashad Penny. So you have 5 running backs in your backfield. What are you going to do with 5 running backs? Are you going to run some all formation? I mean, I have no earthly idea what the Carolina Panthers are going to do. They're going to have to make some cuts. They're going to have to trim some fat. The terms have not been disclosed yet for the new deal with Rashad Penny. So you have, again, a guy in Jonathan Brooks who you just drafted. He's coming off an ACL last year at Texas. He tore his ACL in his last year. He said after the draft that he expects to be cleared medically in time for training camp. But I guess for the Carolina Panthers' sake, having extra backs might be necessary while he's being eased into the system. So if you're a Panthers fan, if you're a Tolo who pulls for the Carolina Panthers, let us know on the stream. Also on the text line, phone line's open as well. Who do you cut and who do you keep? Because you can't keep them all, and you can't obviously cut them all, but you're going to have to make some cuts. You're going to have to trim some fat here. Penny, Rashad Penny, is very familiar with Dave Canales. And then you also have, as I mentioned a minute ago, Chuba Hubbard, Miles Sanders, Jonathan Brooks, and Raheem Blackshear. But Rashad Penny, he's a versatile back. He had his best season with the Seahawks in 2021. Guess who the passing game coordinator was in Seattle in 2021? That's right, Dave Canales. He, in 2021, rushed 119 times for 749 yards and 6 touchdowns. Decent season. Not a great season. Didn't break 1,000 yards. David goes on to say in the article that adding Penny could also give the Panthers flexibility in maybe trading Miles Sanders, who has had some injury problems recently as well. He lost the starting job to Hubbard last season. And even though Dan Morgan said he sees a big role for the 2019 second-round pick out of Penn State, there's question marks around him. There's a lot of question marks around him right now. Last season, Rashad Penny played for the Philadelphia Eagles. However, he only appeared in 3 games, rushed 11 times for a grand total of 33 yards. So again, I asked the question, as a Panthers fan, who do you want Bryce Young to have to his left and to his right? We know that they may keep 3. They probably will. I don't see them keeping 4. But if you have 3 backs, obviously your number 1 back for the Carolina Panthers is going to be the workhorse, right? He's going to be the guy that gets most of the carries, unless Dave Canales decides to go running back by committee, which I'm not a big fan of. I would be very surprised if that happened. You just spent a draft pick on Jonathan Brooks, who's a heck of a running back, a really good back. Again, he's coming off of an ACL tear, a little bit of worry there, a little bit of concern there. Excuse me. However, you can't have 5 or 6 running backs on your roster. In a perfect world scenario, I think Bryce Young needs to be handing the ball off to Jonathan Brooks. If Jonathan Brooks continues to recover, he says he'll be ready by training camp. Will there be a first-year learning curve for Jonathan Brooks? I don't think there will be a significant learning curve. We've seen rookie running backs do just fine in the NFL. Chuba Hubbard got carries last year. Miles Sanders, Raheem Blackshear. I think you probably end up cutting one of those. And you probably, by the very first game, may very well cut Rashad Penny. So while you just signed Rashad Penny, I would tell Panthers fans, I don't even know that Rashad Penny's going to be on your roster come opening week. Texter from the 753 says, cut Miles Sanders. Let him go work for Colonel Sanders at KFC, says Scotty from BMW. Scotty, obviously not a big fan of Miles Sanders. The crowded backfield is going to have to be sorted out between now and, I would say, July, August. You're going to have a pulse. You're going to have an idea of what you want to do at running back. On the stream, JD says maybe Canales likes Sanders. I don't know. But the ideal situation would be a trade over a cut, right? Ask JD. We need assets or players. A cut gets you neither of those. So, Cole, what are the stipulations? Can they only cut? No, I would say that there's a very good possibility, as David Newton pointed out in the article, I would say there's a very good possibility that Rashad Penny does get packaged in some sort of trade. You don't have a terrible issue with the quality of running backs. However, you do have a quantity problem. I don't think you have a quality problem because I have been a big Jonathan Brooks fan since I first saw him in college. Again, will his game translate to the NFL? I don't know. I hope it does because he could be special for the Carolina Panthers if he can do what he did at Texas, because he is a very, very good back. He really is. But the crowded Carolina Panthers backfield, in my opinion, will shake itself out. If I'm a Panthers fan, which I'm not, but if I were, I would want Jonathan Brooks and Chuba Hubbard as my main backs. I just do not know if I'm a huge fan, if I have a ton of belief in what Miles Sanders can do anymore. He got benched. He's had some injury issues. Is he still a number 1 back? I don't think so. I don't think he is. Is he a terrible backup? No, I'm not saying he's a terrible backup, but to me right now, it looks as if the Carolina Panthers, outside of Jonathan Brooks, have a bunch of average backs. It looks as if the Carolina Panthers have a bunch of 2s and 3s. And let's be honest, if you want to turn this franchise around, you're not going to do it with a bunch of 2s and 3s. Now, I'm not saying you have to have 2 1s. I'm not saying you have to have Jonathan Brooks and, the next great talented running back that you can name in the next free agency period. I'm not saying that. But you obviously have a quantity problem. And I will also tell you that it looks you have a quantity or a quality problem as well. While you have a quantity problem and having too many, again, outside of Jonathan Brooks being the outlier, I would say you have a quantity and quality problem. You better hope that Jonathan Brooks comes off of that ACL tear and recovers and gets back to what Jonathan Brooks was. Because the last thing that Panthers fans want is for Jonathan Brooks, the most recent draft pick at running back, the last thing Panthers fans want is for that pick to be a bust. Because there are already a lot of people who are worried that your quarterback pick last year will be a bust. So Jonathan Brooks, Bryce Young, Xavier Legette, they all have to have a good season. They all have to step up. I'm not saying Jonathan Brooks has to have a 1,000-yard season and Xavier Legette has to have 15 touchdowns. But you've got to, as we said, going into the draft, you've got to hit on these draft picks. You don't have to hit home runs, but you do have to hit base hits. You do have to hit some singles and some doubles, and a triple would be nice. And, man, if they could get a home run out of all of this, that would be incredible. If Jonathan Brooks could be a home run, that would be incredible. I don't see Jonathan Brooks being a home run per se, because home runs don't happen often at the running back position. But you got to hope for some doubles. You got to hope for some of these draft picks to start stepping up. Texter from the 587 asked the question, where would Ezekiel Elliott be on the Panthers depth chart? Well, as a Cowboys fan, I'll tell you this. I'm not a big Zeke fan as of anymore, as of recent, if you will. So to answer your question, where would Zeke be on this depth chart? Again, this is tough because, as I said, there's a lot of 2s and 3s in this running back room. Hubbard, Sanders, Blackshear, and now the addition of Penny plus Jonathan Brooks. I would probably say Zeke would be 2 or 3. Zeke can still be used in red zone packages. Ezekiel Elliott still has a little bit of good football in him. Keyword, a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. I don't think he's a number 1 back anymore. I think he's lost a significant part of his step that made him so deadly. But I would probably say, to answer your question, Texter, somewhere around 2 or 3. But you wouldn't want him in your running back room either, because that would just be another 2 or 3, and that's all you have right now. You better hope Jonathan Brooks steps up. You better hope he recovers well. Brendan, who would you if you had a cut and trim some fat here, or if you were a Panthers fan, I know you're a Falcons fan, but if you were a Panthers fan and said, okay, opening week, I want Bryce Young handing the ball off to RB1 and RB2 of these 5 now, who's 1 and 2 in your opinion?
Brooks and Hubbard. I don't. So when if you have 5 or 6, the obvious thing that starts coming to your mind is, are they going to run a wing T offense? I mean, do they not have confidence in their quarterback? And obviously, the wing T is pretty much a dead offense. So I would want Brooks, and then I want Hubbard, because I want Hubbard as a number 2 because he's more of an east-west runner, and Brooks is a north-south runner.
Yeah, I would agree. Again, those are the 2 that I would keep. But the Carolina Panthers adding depth, again, like David said, may be very well just to get them through the offseason with Brooks having to come back from an injury. Again, we don't know what the terms were on this new deal with Rashad Penny yet. So let's look at this. Let's look at if the season started today, Panthers fans. Texter, by the way, says Zeke would be the number one and goal back. Oh, Zeke would be the one and goal back. Yeah, short packages, goal line. I agree with that. If the Panthers season started today, here's what this Panthers roster would look like. You'd obviously have Bryce Young at quarterback. If it started today, you'd probably have Chuba Hubbard, Brandon at one, at running back, because of Jonathan Brooks' injury. And you know what? Going into the season, if the Panthers do not see a significant difference between Brooks and Hubbard, I bet you today that Hubbard's the number one back going into the season in week one. Unless Jonathan Brooks just separates himself, right? I see Hubbard being the number one back for the time being. I'm not saying that lasts all season because Brooks could very well separate himself from the pack. However, he's not going to have a big advantage because he's going to have to prove himself and prove himself quick with the injury. So does this roster look a lot different from last year? Bryce Young, Chuba Hubbard, and then, most importantly on the offensive line, Taylor Morton. You have Hunt at right guard, Austin Corbett at center, which to a lot of Panthers fans is their biggest liability. Damian Lewis at left guard, Ekwonu at left tackle, and then your receivers. Brandon, Deontay Johnson, Xavier Legette, and Adam Thielen. That's your 1, 2, 3. And while Xavier Legette was a good pickup, Panthers fans have to understand and realize in this situation, you're not a year away. You're not 2 years away from making a run. You're almost, as I said earlier, you're just pretty close to rock bottom. It's going to take several good drafts and several really good free agency periods, in my opinion, because this roster doesn't scream 8 wins to me. In fact, Brandon, I don't even know if it screams 6 wins.
What did you put them in the tier a couple of days ago?
I had them at 3 to 5 years of good drafts.
Okay, yeah, so I can see that now. You're right. This the receiving core does not scream an 8-win season. And truth be told, your only best bet is Xavier Legette. I mean, are you really going to rely on 100 passes to be completed by Adam Thielen, who is falling off of his time, who is a straight slot receiver, who is just a body, really? I mean, do you think that Carolina is going to want to have another 2-15 or 1-16 season?
I don't think so.
So the offense is going to look different. I think this offense is going to get a 5, maybe 6-win season.
We shall see. We're going to bring in Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central coming up in the very next segment. He will give you the inside information on South Carolina baseball and where he has them finishing.
Tapping out on this show, you either bring it strong or you can ride the pine.
We're going wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Hey, this is Cole from Wire to Wire, and I want to let you know that this evening, this weekend, I encourage you to make one visit and one visit only. I really encourage you to go visit the Ingles Deli. We had a chance to visit the Ingles Deli yesterday, and let me tell you, if you don't have time to prepare a meal or you just want fresh and delicious prepared foods to go, the Ingles Deli is the place to go. Fresh ingredients, high-quality products, meals that are designed to be delicious and quick at the same time. Designed perfectly for you. If you're too tired to cook, need to pitch in for dinner, or have a sick friend, the Ingles Deli is the perfect option. One of my favorite parts is the meat in 3. If you're missing the comfort of your mom or grandma's home cooking, the meat in 3, the chicken, They also have on various days of the week pork chops, hamburger steaks, a variety of items that make you feel like you're eating the comfort foods that you have grown up on and loved all of your life. Highest quality, freshest ingredients. If you're trying to cut a little bit, lose a little bit of weight like I am, because Lord knows I need to lose it, they also have fresh made in store salads. How about chicken salad? Well, they make their chicken salad from their signature rotisserie chickens, which are a fantastic option as well. A full selection of gourmet cheeses, deli meats, homemade soups, fresh sandwiches, and my favorite, the party platters. They are great for any occasion. Remember, you can expect more from your local Ingles.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
The Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can relive big moments from Rob Brown, Jim Rome, and more. Don't miss a beat. Just hit Rewind with the Odyssey app on the Fan Upstate.
About a minute and a half.
From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Weather Center, here's the Upstate's most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Partly cloudy tonight, a low of 63. Friday, showers in the morning, otherwise sunny, high of 83. Saturday, sunny at 77. Sunday, Mother's Day, plenty of sunshine, and a high of 79. Showers Monday with a high of 78. Tuesday, showers and storms, 72. I'm meteorologist Ray Miller on the Fan Upstate. Right now, it's 72.
I hate this one. That bet the
Let's
books
handicap
thing.
the hardwood. Chris
It gets
Mack
me
here to help
every
you beat
time.
the books with BetQL. The Boston Celtics have been locking up everyone in the postseason, only allowing 92 points per game in the playoffs. This has the BetQL model loving the under in game 2. The BetQL model has under 212 points as a 4-star best bet in Celtics Cavs tonight. I'm Chris Mack. Bet smarter. Beat the books. Download the BetQL and BetMGM apps today.
You see one quote
ones who
analyst,
work hard to ensure
Dan
their crew
Orlovsky,
can always go the extra
when he said the
mile.
Panthers might go
And
this
the
year.
ones who get in early,
He said 1-16.
so everyone can go home.
He said
on
I could see them
time.
going 1 and
There's
16,
Grainger,
or I could even see them going
offering
0 and
professional grade
17
supplies backed by product experts,
because
so you
of
can
like
quickly
how
and easily find what you need.
disproportionate they
Plus,
are as a team
you can
right now.
count on access to a committed team ready to go
They're
the extra
struggling.
mile for you. Call Grainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're drowning in IRS debt and can't afford to pay, then you need to take advantage of special IRS tax programs that are available and free yourself from IRS collection efforts once and for all. Due to the financial hardship consumers are facing throughout the country, the Internal Revenue Service has made it easier to settle delinquent tax problems. An open
APW,
phone line has
what's
been
up?
established
How are
by
ya?
Community
Thanks for
Tax
hopping
for
on the
consumers to
stream.
call and see if they qualify. Take down this number or store it in your cell phone, but call the Community Tax Helpline at 800-254-4574. If
Jack,
you
my
owe
man, how
back
you doing, man?
taxes to the IRS and cannot afford to pay them back, or even if you have years
Absolutely.
of
So we got
unfiled
you on
tax
in
returns,
about
there's no need to fear
minute and
anymore.
15
But you
seconds.
They can attack your wages, savings, pension, home, and even your Social Security check. Call 800-254-4574 for your free consultation and to see if you qualify. That's 800-254-4574.
Get ready to show your Gamecock pride at the ultimate fan experience. Join us at the Lodge at Lake
This is
Boone
good
Commons
back-to-back,
on
by the way,
Tuesday for the
again.
Gamecock Club meeting, sponsored by Wings, etc., Grill and Pub in Boiling Springs. Experience the excitement as the Fan Upstate's own Wire to Wire will be live on location. Special guest coach Shane Beamer will be in the house sharing insights and insider information. Don't miss out on this exclusive event. Get your tickets now at thegamecockclub.com. Wings, etc. of Boiling Springs, your
30
local
seconds.
sports bar known for award-winning jumbo wings, signature sauces, burgers, wraps, and more. Get ready to show your Gamecock pride at the ultimate fan experience. Join us at the Lodge at Lake Bowen Commons on Tuesday for the Gamecock Club meeting, sponsored by Best Overhead Doors and Vinyl Siding. Experience the excitement as the Fan Upstate's own Wire to Wire will be live on location. Special guest coach Shane Beamer will be in the house, sharing insights and insider information. Don't miss out on this exclusive event. Get your tickets now at thegamecockclub.com. And remember, Best Overhead Doors Services makes all models for garage door installation, repairs, and replacements. Call for your free estimate today.
Text us at 71307. Keyword fan. This is Wire to Wire with Cole, Bryson, and Diesel on the Fan.
Upstate.
We've already had our listeners, our Tolos, talking about South Carolina baseball today. It's a hot topic. They begin their weekend series tonight in a really, really tough one. I say this weekend and next weekend are certainly going to be tough ones for South Carolina baseball. And to talk South Carolina Gamecock baseball, nobody better than Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. Jack, what's going on, man?
How are you guys? Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely, man. Always love talking a little South Carolina Gamecock baseball with you. You know, the way the chips fell, these last 4 weekends for South Carolina have been brutally tough. Kentucky, Missouri, Georgia, and Tennessee next week. What's been Mark Kingston's message to the team about, you know, just keeping their head up and staying confident because they're playing the best of the best?
Yeah, you know, it's definitely easy to get wound up in just how tough the schedule is and, you know, how tough this season can be at times and grueling for South Carolina. But I think the biggest thing is that, you know, Kingston has continued to believe in the guys, and I think they're reciprocating that kind of energy to where they're having fun now and enjoying the process of playing better baseball. And I think it's reflecting in what the record looks like now as compared to a few weeks ago. And even Kingston himself is having a lot more fun. He said that, you know, when those guys are having fun out there, it, you know, reflects on him. And I think it's a good recipe for success whenever you're able to, you know, enjoy winning and all that.
Jack, South Carolina, we talk about it. You've mentioned it. The schedule's tough, but are they, in your opinion, playing their best baseball of the entire season right now?
I would say so. I think it's hard to argue against a team that's scoring 10 runs a game over their last 7. And I think Mark Kingston's definitely found the right lineup combination. I think you have 6 guys batting over 300 right now in that order, and it's a good group from top to bottom. I think the one thing you'd like to see improve upon is the starting rotation. I think at this point in the year, it's still a big question mark to me. I did not see – I was in Como this past weekend when South Carolina played Missouri, and I was, you know, when I left, I was just not impressed with what the starting rotation did. I think they're better than that. I think they can definitely give you a little bit more length. But other than that, I think the bullpen's in a good spot. I think the lineup is about as good as it can get. The defense could be a little better, but I think overall you have to be happy with where South Carolina's at right now.
I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to the starting rotation. We talked about it earlier this week. You know, when they get to the postseason, whether they're on the road or hosting, that is going to be, you know, the calling card. That's going to be what South Carolina has to have. You mentioned it a few minutes ago. The hitting's improved. Jack, 2 weeks ago, the biggest question was, why is South Carolina continuing to leave runners in scoring position? And in my opinion, Jack, that's something they've improved on here as of late.
They definitely have improved on that. I would say they're doing a much better job getting on base, for one. And what I'm noticing is that they've got a good mix of guys who can go out there, get on base, and then steal a bag or two. And they haven't been afraid to pull off a double steal from time to time, and it gets you in scoring position. And then from there, you have your bats that are swinging well, driving those runners in from second and third. And it really is reflecting well in what they've been able to do. That's why they're putting up so many runs. It's not just home runs and, you know, those types of hits that they're getting. They're doing the little things right, and they continue to bunt as well, which is definitely a key factor in what they've been able to do. They're moving runners over, and they're driving them in now, which I know for most of this year had been an issue, but lately it's definitely working out in their favor.
You mentioned it a few moments ago as we're being joined by Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. But when you look at last weekend's series, Jack, with Missouri, you know, Eli Jones, Roman Kimball, what is Mark Kingston able to put a finger on when it comes to the lack of length that these guys are able to go right now?
I think from what I've seen, I'd have to say it was missing the zone. I think both those guys fell behind in counts, and you saw them each try to make pitches that the get me over type of pitches that are in the zone. And unfortunately, they more times than not will get hit in those pitches that get left up and in there. And for Roman Kimball, for instance, I mean, he gave back-to-back homers on Friday, and that's kind of where you saw his outing go to waste. I mean, he walked the guys like he has been this year, and it was a struggle. And then Eli Jones, same thing. Now, I will say with Eli, I think the stat line looks a lot worse than it really is. I mean, yeah, he struggled to really pitch long and into the game on Saturday, but the thing with him is his defense did him no favors behind him. I thought the defense looked about as rough as it has with this new reconfigured infield, and they've got to play better behind him. That's the key, I think, with helping him out. But I mean, you can't deny that Jones hasn't struggled lately. It's something that has been an issue the last few weeks, and you hope with him now being back in the Friday starting slot. I know it's still game 2, but he's pitching on Friday tomorrow. I think that will certainly help him. I think it's also a mental thing too, moving from Friday to Saturday, now back to Friday. I mean, we're going to see what happens this weekend, but you need some length out of these guys. Maybe not from Kimball specifically, who can go 2-3 innings, but more so from Jones, who you would hope can at least get into the 6th inning.
Jack, South Carolina right now 13-11 in conference play. In order to get to that sweet spot, in order to get to that magic number of whatever it may be for them to host a regional, I know their RPI is good, their strength of schedule is good. As Mark Kingston pointed out on our show, he feels confident that will help. But when you look at these next 2 weekends, top 15 team, number 15 Georgia, number 1 team in the country in Tennessee, what are realistic expectations? Because you said it, they are playing their best baseball of the year, but what are realistic expectations in your opinion over the next 6?
I have kept saying I think 3-3 needs to be what they need to hit. Now, 3 more wins gets them to 16, and I've kept saying it that, we'll look back at last year, for instance. I know circumstances might be different and stuff, but South Carolina last year had 16 wins in conference play, and that was good enough to get them the 15 overall seed in the NCAA tournament. And I know that team struggled at the end of the year and stuff, but this one's playing their best baseball right now. And if they can somehow find a way to take 2 out of 3 this weekend, I mean, I think the winner of this series this weekend, more likely than not, is going to be hosting a regional. I think that's just the truth of it. And now if you take 2 out of 3 this weekend and you find a way to at least win 1 in Knoxville, if not more, then you're really solidifying yourself for who knows. I mean, if they end up going maybe 4-2 or 5-1, I think that's a little bit of wishful thinking. If they get into that conversation of taking both these series, I think there's some argument needing to be made for, okay, is this team good enough to potentially host a super regional as a national seed? I'm not sure. I think 3-3 is a little bit more realistic. And then they still got Hoover, which I know has definitely been a house of horrors for them forever now, it seems like, in the SEC tournament. But I think regular season speaking, 3-3 or better would be nice.
I agree with you 100%. I really do. And to your point, Tennessee's a different animal. They're a monster right now. However, I've said all week, Jack, that if you tell me that South Carolina somehow sweeps Georgia, you're going to have a hard time convincing me that South Carolina would then go and get swept by Tennessee.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, look, I think the last time South Carolina was in Knoxville, I was there, and that was a pretty bad weekend for South Carolina 2 years ago where they got swept. And look, Tennessee's playing their best baseball right now, but one thing about Tennessee is, I mean, is it sustainable? Is it because it seems like they come up short of whatever the expectations are of winning the College World Series, and who knows? I mean, South Carolina right now, if they sweep Georgia, which I don't know if that's going to happen, I think 2 or 3 is a little more realistic. If South Carolina ends up sweeping this series, they are more like, I think they're definitely in a good position to, try to go out there and win a tough series on the road to end the regular season. I mean, I think if they can figure out the starting pitching this weekend, I don't know if they will, but if they get some sort of closer answer to what they're looking for from that group, combined with everything else good that they're doing, I mean, how can you not like the chances?
You can follow him on Twitter at Jack T. Veltri. That's Veltri, staff writer for Gamecock Central with On3 Sports, covering football, basketball, and baseball. Jack, we get a ton of this hosting this show in a neutral market with South Carolina fans being heavily involved, and I'm sure you do as well, being in Columbia. But it's year 7. How much longer is South Carolina going to put up with regionals and done? Because there are a large majority of the fan base who are pushing for a change. And the reality of it is, while we may not look at Kingston on the hot seat right now, the reality of it is, Jack, he's got to win in the postseason. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I think the mood has shifted a little bit. I think there's still fans out there that, don't believe in him. And, it sucks because when they're winning these series, you got some fans out there that just think so negatively about one guy. And I don't understand how people could think like that, for one. But, I think he's doing a good job right now, and you have to give him credit where it's due. He was bold enough to make the lineup switch and trade out less defense for more offense, and that's worked out very well. And he's pulling the right strings right now with some of the pitching staff in terms of who to use in certain spots. So, look, at the end of the day, people judge you on wins and losses. I think he's doing a good enough job right now to, save his I don't even know if he's on the hot seat right now, but save his position for the future. And I know fans won't like to hear that, for at least for some. But you gotta give credit where it's due. He's doing a good job right now, and I'm not sure what happens if they get bounced in the regional round or whatever. But I think anything where you make the super regional or better would definitely be good enough to at least be here for another season.
The series rather, Jack, not only this week, but next week starts on a Thursday. So they will be in action tonight, and then they will not have a midweek game talking about the South Carolina Gamecocks. They will have a nice little break next week before they get Tennessee at Tennessee starting again on Thursday. Does that starting a day earlier, in your opinion, change anything or throw a wrench in anything, Jack?
Not really. I don't think. I think the week, not having a midweek game, school's over at this point. I think it really does help keep up with the relaxed nature of this team and the vibes and stuff, like I've been saying. And I do think, depending on what happens this weekend, if they do win the series this weekend, the confidence is going to be about as high as ever. And that's what you need going into a tough road series to end the regular season. But I do think this team's in a good spot, and I don't see it really shifting a ton of what they do going forward. Pitching staff-wise, maybe, but other than that, I think they're playing about as good as baseball as you can right now.
Jack, always a fantastic job. We appreciate you joining us on the program and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
I appreciate it so much, my man. Always appreciate hopping on, and thank you for having me.
Absolutely. That's Jack Veltri of Gamecock Central. Does a great job writing and covering the South Carolina baseball team for Gamecock Central. They have a lot of good guys over there, man. We have some really good contacts, some really good relationships with the guys at Gamecock Central. They do a fantastic job, have been for a long time, and Jack's been phenomenal on this program as well, giving you some insight and insider information for South Carolina baseball. Wes Mitchell, who we have on, he's fantastic as well, and we appreciate all of them for hopping on. So it will be interesting. Again, South Carolina starting on Thursday this week. Clemson will start on Friday this week, but will start on Thursday next week. Clemson does have a midweek game, so South Carolina only has 6 left, while Clemson has this weekend's series in Winston-Salem starting on Friday. Then Tuesday, they go down to Conway to take on the Chanticleers, and then they wrap things up at home next weekend starting on Thursday. That'll be a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series to end the regular season against Boston College. And then, as Jack said, it'll be tournament time. SEC tournaments, ACC tournaments, and for South Carolina, we talk a lot about what they can do in the regular season, regular season. However, we sometimes overlook the fact that if they were to get hot, even though they do finish with a tough Tennessee team, if they were to get hot, you never know what could happen in the conference tournament that could really give them a boost if you will, not only in terms of confidence, but in terms of being able to host a regional. So I think Jack hit the nail on the head. They have 6 regular season left. If they go 3-3, I think they're locked in at hosting. If they were to slip up and only win 1 or 2 of the next 6, we shall see. We shall see. All right, coming up in the very next segment, I want to ask if a boxing fight that we're going to talk about tarnishes the sport of boxing. You probably know who I'm talking about, what fight's coming up very soon that has a lot of attention, a lot of hype leading up to the match. Great hype, great energy, but does it hurt the sport, the quality of the sport of boxing? We'll talk about it next. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
Of course, your adult softball beer league counts as a sport.
This is Wire to Wire with
You hear me?
Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Added a 30 because I
Fan
had to run to the
Upstate.
restroom.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash presented by Progressive. Stanley Cup playoffs tonight. The Hurricanes looking to get back
coaches and team always available on demand. Stay in the know with your favorite teams with Odyssey. AUDACY. Download the free Odyssey app today.
With Allstate. And look at you, hands perfectly placed on the wheel. Not like the driver to the right of you who's really going after that drum solo. Save with DriveWise and the Allstate app and only pay a rate based on you.
Not available in every state, subject to terms and conditions. Rating factors and savings vary, and in some states
I'm
your
back.
rate could increase with high-risk driving. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Leave your namby-pamby sports takes at the door. Call in if you're man enough.
844 Fan Phone. This is Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
It is Friday Eve. That's right. The weekend is approaching. Tomorrow should be a wonderful, wonderful day. It's supposed to be a nice weekend. A lot going on. I want to remind you that this Saturday night, we invite you to come out and be a part of what is going on in downtown Spartanburg. I'll be there. Diesel will be there. Some other stations from Odyssey Greenville will be there as well. Well, what's happening Saturday night, you ask? Well, Spartanburg Baseball Club, as we had the GM, Tyson Jeffers, on yesterday, the Spartanburg Baseball Club will be announcing the name of the mascot, the team name. What are they going to be? That's all we've talked about for the last few months, and we will finally find out on Saturday night. Diesel and I will both be there on location. We will not be live on the station. We will make some drop-ins on Facebook Live and on Twitter, but I encourage you to come out, hang out with us, talk a little baseball, get your best guesses in, see the reaction of the fans. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be there's a restaurant. There's a great Mexican restaurant right in the middle of the street where they are doing the announcement. There's going to be great food, great times. So we want you to come out and hang out with us. Let's talk a little baseball, and then a fireworks show at 9 p.m. that night. All right. In 2 months from now, July 20th, I want to ask you, the Tolos, the audience, on July the 20th, will you be watching Mike Tyson get back in the ring if he is approved by AARP to fight Jake Paul? So this fight, Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, will be on Netflix, AT&T Stadium. It's going to be a fight that has more viewers than we've ever seen, not because it's pure boxing, not because it's two boxing stars, not because it's boxing at its finest, but because Jake Paul, who is a boxer, also an internet sensation on TikTok, is fighting a real boxer in Mike Tyson. So I want to know from you, the Tolos, number one, will you even be watching? Do you care? Are you interested? 71307 is the way you can get your thoughts in on the text line. If you are interested, let's say you're a boxing fan. Let's say you think, man, this would be incredible to watch. Let's say you're even so much of a boxing fan, you think, I'd like to go and watch this fight in attendance. I'd like to be there in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. Well, guess what? You can do so, but you're going to pay a pretty penny. Right now, the lowest ticket price through Game Time, which is an app, a great app, by the way, free publicity for them, is $575. Ticket prices on StubHub for Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson range from $323 to $2,184. Vivid Pretty similar, $247 to $3,140. So you can spend up to $3,000 to sit ringside for Jake Paul, but you can also spend $8,000 for front row seating. $8,000 a ticket to go see Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. This is at AT&T Stadium. This is an 80,000 seat facility. I do not think there will be 80,000 people in attendance. If I'm wrong, I'll eat my crow on air. But you have a hard time convincing me that AT&T Stadium will be sold out to see this. Now, the viewership will be incredible because it is on Netflix and it's a free live event. Free if you have the subscription, obviously. So I think the viewership will be through the roof. However, you couldn't pay me to go watch it. That's right. You couldn't pay me. I don't care enough about Jake Paul and Mike Tyson. If you said, hey, I'm going to pay you $100, I'm good. I'm good. So the attendance, I'm a no-go. Will I watch it? I may. I may not. Right now, it's 50-50. Honestly, it depends on what I have going on. And I'll tell you this, if it's the very last fight and it doesn't come on until 11:30, 12 o'clock, I may be passed out by then. So who knows if I'll watch it. If I'm awake and I'm in front of a TV, sure, I'll turn it on. But I'm not going to go out of my way by any stretch of the imagination to watch Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, who's 80. Not literally, but he's old. On the stream, James says, Cole, the name of our Spartanburg baseball team will be the Hub City Titans. How about that? I do not hate that name, James. I've heard a lot of names that I do hate. I've heard some that I like a lot. And I would say that comes somewhere. That one falls somewhere in the middle. JD on the stream says, that's nuts to me. Barely over 500 in conference gets you hosting. Talking about Jack Veltry's interview, 8-4, and a bowl game is equivalent of. So he's not moving off of that mountain. Coming up in the very next segment, I want to play a clip of audio from you, or for you rather, from Shaquille O'Neal. It's a fascinating, hilarious piece of audio, as well as I have one from Chuck that I want to play for you if we have time. The NBA playoffs. Who is in trouble? I'll tell you that. I'll tell you who I think's in trouble, but I will also tell you coming up next who I think you cannot count out yet. Wire to Wire, every day, 3 to 7 p.m. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
You're listening to the underground of sports talk radio, where we're not afraid to get dirty.
It's Wire to Upstate.
An Odyssey Sports Station.
You ready? Let's go.
It's
From the fields to the courts, and the gridiron to the tracks.
Electrifying sports talk from start to finish.
You're going wire to wire
With Diesel and Cole Bryson.
on the Fan Upstate.
It is Wire to Wire, the newest show right here in the upstate of South Carolina. Glad to have you along. Glad to have you as a TOLO. That stands for Turn It On, Leave It On. We want you to turn it on and leave it on all day, 3 to 7 p.m. on this, what's turned out to be a beautiful Thursday afternoon. The sun's out here in Greenville. Let us know where you're listening from on this Thursday edition of Wire to Wire here in the final hour of the program. All right. I want to take a look, a close look. So it's time to get out those binoculars. It's time to get out those, microscopes. I want to look at the NBA playoffs. I do think that what we've seen so far, as we are now in the second round, conference semifinals, I do think that what we've seen is expected. I do not see, in my opinion, any big surprises. However, I will tell you this. There have been a few things that have caught my curiosity, if you will, that have caught my attention. The Thunder being the 1 seed in this Western Conference playoffs. The Thunder being the 1 seed, the Thunder having the year that they had was probably the biggest surprise of the regular season. And right now they have a 1-0 lead over Dallas. Everyone is expecting, for whatever reason, for Oklahoma City to move on and play what looks like will be the Timberwolves because they have a 2-0 lead over the reigning champs. The Nuggets, for as good as they are, they're in a little bit of a hole. The Timberwolves look like the best team in the world right now. Right now, it looks like it'll be the Boston Celtics and Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA Finals. However, I'm here to tell you that you do not need to count out the Dallas Mavericks. I do think the Dallas Mavericks are being slept on a little bit. Am I saying that Dallas can go and take down Minnesota or Boston? I don't know. I would probably lean no. But I'll tell you this. When you have a pair of players, a pair of athletes, like the Dallas Mavericks do, with Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, you cannot count them out. You can't count Luka out. You can't count Kyrie out. Dallas is a team that's capable of making a run. However, they're going to have some help from the bench. They're going to have some help from their bigs. Oklahoma City plays well. They play as a team, but I'll tell you this. Don't count Dallas out quite yet. Now, if they lose tonight, I will be surprised. I think they cover the 5.5 tonight. I know I was wrong on Tuesday, but I think Dallas has a bounce-back game. I will tell you, don't count Dallas out, and also don't count Denver out. Yes, Denver's down 2-0, and being down 2-0 is a lot different than being down 1-0, but Denver has championship DNA. Denver has what no other team in the league in the playoffs have right now. The Timberwolves, for as good as they are, they don't have championship DNA. Oklahoma City, Dallas, they don't. Boston, they choke every year in the playoffs. Cleveland Cavaliers had championship DNA 7-8 years ago. Not anymore. Indiana sure as heck don't. New York had championship DNA a long time ago. But championship DNA, the makeup that allows a team to come back even when down, I'll bet on. Am I saying that Denver's going to come back and win that series? I don't think they'll come back and win it, but I do think they will push it 6, if not 7 games. I really do. That game's tomorrow at 9:30, and I think Denver wins tomorrow at home. And matter of fact, it wouldn't surprise me if they won 2 in a row at home. So I'll tell you in the Western Conference, don't count Dallas out. Excuse me, don't count Dallas out, and sure as heck, do not count Denver out. Brandon, in the Western Conference, on what I've said about not counting Dallas and Denver out, any pushback there?
I would say Dallas has the better odds.
To win the
series?
series?
To win the series, because teams and stats say that teams who go down 0-2 in the postseason, 86% of the time lose the series within 6 or 7 games. So Denver really is in a hole. Can Denver climb out of it? Absolutely, they can climb out of that hole because they are the Denver Nuggets. You do have the 3-time NBA MVP player.
Yep.
So and the Joker. So I mean, I'm not gonna say that they're not gonna come back. I'm not gonna say they are gonna come back. So if I had to say, Denver loses in 6 to Minnesota, I think Dallas is the only one that makes it very interesting. I could see Dallas going and playing in the Western Conference Finals against Minnesota.
I could too. Again, Oklahoma City's they're a good team. They not only are the 1 seed, they did deserve the 1 seed because they had an excellent regular season. However, I've seen the problem, Brandon, that I have with the Thunder is this. I've seen way too many games from Luka, and I've seen way too many games from Kyrie. And if those two, Brandon, will make a little magic, if those two get on a roll, if those two get hot, I will tell you right now, the last team I'll count out is Dallas. We've seen what Kyrie's done in the postseason. We've seen the shots that he's made. We all know what kind of player Luka is. There's no surprise there. Everybody knows what kind of player he is. Arguably the best on the planet. Top 3 for sure. So my point is, look, Thunder are good. I'm not saying they don't deserve to be the 1 seed because they've done a fantastic job, regular season and postseason. Oh, by the way, they haven't even lost a postseason game yet. They're 5-0 in the postseason. But it's hard for me to count out people who have been there. While Luka hasn't been there, Kyrie's been there. And I will tell you this, of the teams remaining, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Nuggets, Timberwolves, Pacers, Knicks, and Celtics, Cavs. Of the teams remaining, if there's one player that gets hot, that scares the absolute living you-know-what out of me, it's Kyrie Irving. Do not, I'm just telling you, Denver's good, Minnesota's good, and Oklahoma City, they deserve to be there. But don't let that boy get hot. That's all I'm telling you, because if he gets hot, Dallas can make a run. What do you think? Who are you watching in the NBA postseason? 844-FAN phone. Let's go to the phone lines. Big Kev wants to chime in. Big Kev, what's up, man?
What's going on, my guy?
How are you?
Hey, man, I'm just chilling outside listening to the birds talk to me for a few seconds about who my Lakers head coach may be. But right now, it's neither here nor there because I like the basketball that's going on right now. Like, the fact that the Knicks is in it says a lot about their coach and what they got going on. The Knicks in Indiana, like this, right now, I feel like the 90s right now.
It does.
Like, you might not be getting 90s basketball, but you got a 90s rivalry, and that could go either way. And then you got in the West now, like Denver may be exposed, man. They might be exposed because, I mean, they got some injuries going on, but at the same time, when you sit in this pick and roll at the top of the key, and then these boys are going over the screen, then trapping, and then now you got to pass the ball to Jokic out here at the top of the key to let him be a point guard. Now, as soon as he put the ball on the floor, I blitz him. So if he ever decide to go from the three-point line to the goal, blitz him. Make him truck somebody, make it be whatever it may be. But don't let him just get free reign down the lane to go score. And they playing defense, man. Them boys are playing defense in Minnesota. So right now, I just like the basketball that's going on.
I do too, but I want to go back to the first thing you said.
Yep.
The Lakers, they're a hot story. Everyone knows it's the Cowboys of the NBA. It's the Yankees of the NBA. Who are they going to hire? What if I told you this? I want your instant live reaction, Kev, as a Lakers fan. LeBron's buddy, J.J. Redick, will be the next coach.
If they hire J.J. Redick as the coach, I'm never watching the NBA again.
Kev, are you serious?
On everything I love. If they hire an inexperienced coach who played the game, but not from a coaching standpoint,
yeah, you're right.
We're not going to do that. And for the Lakers to hire him, no, that's from LeBron Dylan right there.
Who you want then, Kev? Budenholzer?
I would love to steal Thibodeau, tell you the truth.
Oh.
Now you got to play defense in L.A. What you going to do?
Yeah, we thought Darvin Ham was going to make you play defense, but that didn't happen.
Let me tell you something. This is, I like LeBron's career. I really do. He has had a great career. And just for the listeners, for you, Coley Cole, because I know where you stand, he'll never be in Mike's shoes. He can come to the table and eat and have a good time, but he'll never have Mike's shoes. But LeBron has a bit of a black hole in him. Because if he doesn't play, my team is really good and they play together and they move the ball. How does one person scare everybody on the court to not want to shoot the ball?
Well, I cannot answer why D'Angelo Russell is a completely different player when he is not on the floor. I think he's the one that's the main benefactor of him not being on the floor. For whatever reason, Kev, they do not gel together.
They don't. And if you're a big man like AD, you can play with LeBron. But as a guard, LeBron needs a dog that plays guard that can look at him and like when he had Kyrie. When Kyrie and LeBron was together, at times you didn't even know LeBron was on the court.
Sure.
And then when he did get the ball and go do something, now you like, dang, now we got the floor spaced out trying to stop Kyrie. Now you got a freight train coming down the lane. So that's what he needs, that one guard that can every night can give him 30 points if need be, or 40.
Trae Young?
But LeBron don't need to keep doing all that every night.
Trae Young?
If we can get him, I love him.
Doesn't play defense, though, Kev.
We're going to have to empty the bank out, and then there ain't going to be nobody but LeBron, Trae, and AD. And that's it. We ain't going to have nobody else on the sideline.
Hey, Trey on the stream live on YouTube, Kev says, tell Kevin to come on and join the Hornets family.
Hey, man, the Hornets is like that family because we from around here that you can never let go. Now, as long as they're not playing your team, we always going for the Hornets. Like LJ and Alonzo and all them boys never got past the Bulls in the first round. But I promise you, we still love them like they did win a chip. You know what I'm saying? Because you got Muggsy out there 5'3", got to go up Mike every night. This ain't going to work. We already knew what this was going to be. But if they now, somebody need to come to Charlotte. Come on, come down the road, come to Charlotte, and make it easy for us to come on down the road because it's not a far trip. So we need somebody to come like not Lonzo, but old buddy down there, ball buddy down there, and he just needs somebody to come play with him. That's it. But they don't want to go to Charlotte, man. They need to. I tell you what, me and you, 3 months. You dribbling, I'm shooting, I'm dribbling, you shooting. We'll see what they got.
Let's do it, man. Kev, thanks for the call as always, brother.
Hey, man. You dribbling, I'm shooting, I'm dribbling, you shooting. We'll see what they got. Let's do it, man.
Appreciate you. That's Kev. Phone lines open. 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663. That's the way you can get in touch with the show. That is the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Text line always open, 71307. Texter says the Nuggets will come back. Another texter says the next 2 games in Minnesota, not Denver, right? Did I get that wrong? I may have. If I did, I apologize.
I believe the next 2 games are in Denver.
Did I say?
You said Minnesota. They just finished the 2 games in Minnesota.
No. This texter says the next 2 games are in Minnesota, not Denver, right?
No.
Earlier, I said they're in Denver the next 2
games. They're in Denver the next 2 games.
Yep. So I was right, texter. Listen, I'm not right often, No, I have to back up.
Because didn't they just play that 2 home games at Minnesota?
From the 3-1-2? I apologize. You are correct.
Ooh.
You're correct. They're in Minnesota the next 2. I misspoke. Brandon misspoke. We all misspoke. They're in Minnesota the next 2. What an advantage that is.
Could you imagine if they swept the Nuggets?
No, I can't imagine that.
That would be like end of times kind
It
of
would
thing.
be absolutely insane. Lester on YouTube says, Luka, us two hurt who played way too many minutes the last month. I think he meant Luka hurt us too, played way too many minutes the last month of the season. He's played 2 months or too much already. Madcraft says, nope, they took 2 in Denver. Madcraft, you're right. I misspoke, which, wow, that is just absolutely massive. Okay, if you they took 2 in Denver and now they're going to come home, that place in Minnesota is going to be stupid. What an advantage! What an advantage the Timberwolves have. To your point, Brandon, it would be absolutely wild.
Think about how loud the Target Center is going to be. The next 2 games in Minnesota.
Be crazy. In the Eastern Conference, the Celtics have a 1-0 lead over the Cavaliers. Listen, the Cavaliers, they barely got by Orlando. The Magic, they took the Cleveland Cavaliers 7 games. There's a very good possibility Boston breaks out the broom here. I say it goes to 5 games and Boston wins in 5. But, man, when you ask me to tell you rather how to convince you that Cleveland's going to win one of these games, it's hard for me to find a way to convince you. Jason Tatum's going to have to be a no-show in order for that to happen. He's going to have to be a no-show. I just can't convince you that Cleveland's going to get a game. I really can't. So it wouldn't surprise me if Boston swept. Also in the East, New York, as you mentioned earlier, Brandon, has a 2-0 lead over Indiana. Wow. That's something that I didn't expect. New York, I didn't expect them to get past Philly, but they're playing as good as anybody. Julius Randle injury, I thought that would hurt them more than it has, but it has not. Right now, it looks like it's going to be New York and Boston, which would be a heck of an Eastern Conference Finals.
Wouldn't have to travel too far, that's for sure.
No, there would be no travel involved there. Get on a bus, right? I mean, it would be very light travel. That would be a fantastic series. As good as Jalen Brunson is playing, man, that would be a lot of fun. It really would. I'm not a Knicks fan, but the Knicks being good is good for the game of basketball. I would love to see Boston choke again. I always pull for Boston to choke in any sport, and I would love nothing more than to see the Knicks knock Boston off in the Eastern Conference. Western Conference, it looks like Minnesota is the team to beat. However, as I said to open this segment, just do not count out Dallas. I know the Thunder have a 1-0 lead. I get it. But don't count Dallas out. Speaking of New York and Boston, Brandon, I want to go to cut 6 here. This came from NBA on TNT, which is a show that provides plenty of audio for radio shows like us, talking about New York and Boston potentially playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. This clip, again, Shaq and Chuck, they're legends, not only on the court, but off the court. And we talk about in this audio, you'll hear just how much Chuck loves New York.
You know, if the Knicks win, that'll be good. You care who wins, cut it out. I don't care who wins, but I will tell you what, I would love to see them get their ass stomped by the Celtics. That'd be great.
Then you care who wins.
I mean, I'm just saying, whoever wins this series is going to get stomped by the Celtics.
Well, you said you'd be happy to see it.
Yeah, because the New Yorkers, y'all deserve it. Because y'all think y'all the greatest thing since sliced bread.
Tell them, Chuck.
Come on, y'all ain't that good in New York.
What else, Chuck?
Come on, man. Y'all overrated.
What else, Chuck?
It's because y'all make good pizza and good bagels.
And what else, Chuck?
What else, Prime?
Hey, hold on, Chuck. Don't forget about this.
Oh, you know, I ain't going to say anything bad about the street meat. You know, I love the street meat.
The New York Knicks.
I don't care what kind of meat it is either. It tastes good.
Even if you got no idea it is.
Rat, dog, cat, skunk, raccoon. It tastes good. Just put that white sauce on it.
That's it.
They're the best, man.
That's it right there. That's some good stuff.
They're the absolute best. All right. I did get a text message from a buddy of mine. I appreciate the text to inform me of some breaking news. Justin, buddy of mine, sent me a text with a tweet, and there has been some basketball news that just broke on the college front, and it involves the Clemson Tigers. This is big, really, really big. I'll tell you what it is on the other side. This is Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate.
Always streaming on the free Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate, and you're wired to Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire.
On the Fan Upstate.
Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a John
Yeah, they were.
moment?
Adrian
No
Wojnarowski was on that NBA
With Rewind,
live that
you
they do on
relive
ESPN,
big moments from Rob Brown,
and they
Jim
said
Rome, and more. Don't miss a
expect
Just hit Rewind with the
Coach
Odyssey app on
Budenholzer
the
to
Fan
sign
Upstate.
with the Sun in the next few days.
From the News Talk 98.9
That'd be a big
WORD
move.
Weather Center, here's the Upstate's most trusted forecast on the Fan Upstate. Partly cloudy
Phoenix,
tonight,
though,
low of
is a,
63. Friday,
is a hot
showers in the
mess.
morning, otherwise sunny, high of 83. Saturday, sunny at 77. Sunday, Mother's Day, plenty of sunshine, and a high of 79. Showers Monday with a high of 78. Tuesday, showers and storms, 72. I'm meteorologist Ray Miller on the Fan Upstate. Right now, it's 73.
You said you had another piece of audio. Did you send it to me as well?
Traffic is
No,
terrible.
I've
It
got-
sure is. But on top of that, gas prices have been skyrocketing. I can't believe how expensive gas has gotten recently.
Prices at the pump are up, but I never pay full price for gas anymore. I just use the free Upside app that pays you cash back for every gallon of gas you buy.
Wait a minute. Are you saying you actually get paid cash when you buy gas with the Upside app?
Yes, I get real cash back every time I buy gas.
And does that actually add up to anything?
I've made around $200.
Wow, that's serious extra cash. I'm downloading the free Upside app now.
Download the free Upside app to earn real cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code GOLD for an extra 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill up. You can cash out anytime right to your bank account, to PayPal, or any gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code GOLD for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code GOLD for 25 cents per gallon cash back on your first fill up.
.com.
Text 71307. Keyword fan.
And connect with Diesel and Cole Bryson on Wire to Wire. This is the Fan Upstate.
Well, anytime you have your segments planned out like I do every day on this program, sometimes you just scratch them. Sometimes you just say, well, screw it. We're not going to talk about that. So I hate to tell you, but we're not talking about what I had planned for this next segment because there has been a little bit of breaking news for the Clemson Tigers. Brad Brownell said, oh, man, that guy down there in Columbia, he's really cooking, man. He's really doing some great things, so I've got to step my game up. Well, as of 25 minutes ago, Joe Tipton, national basketball reporter for On3 Sports, has reported Duke transfer. Christian Reeves, center, 7'1", has committed to Clemson. So Brad Brownell to pair with Victor Lakin, who he also got in the portal just a few weeks ago from Cincinnati. The Clemson Tigers just got a lot better on the basketball court. B.J. Hall said, look, I'm heading to the NBA. And we talked about it just this week that Brad Brownell, what is he going to do? What is big, bad Brad going to do with P.J. leaving Tiger Town? Well, this is a pretty good start. This is a pretty good start for old Brad Brownell. 7'1" center, Christian Reeves. How often do you hear of a Duke transfer going to Clemson? Well, I can't tell you the last time I heard that. Not in basketball. Football, it wouldn't surprise me. But we're talking about basketball. We're talking about Clemson basketball getting a transfer from Duke. Are you kidding me? Are you out of your mind? What would anybody leave Duke for to come to Clemson? Well, in the world that we live in, with the transfer portal and NIL, guess what? Never say never. Because Duke to Clemson 5 years ago wouldn't have exactly happened. However, today it's happening. Great job, Brad Brownell. Congratulations. This is a huge get for Clemson. This is a really, really big turn of events. Just a week or so after P.J. Hall has announced that he is leaving, this center that we're talking about, that's 7'1", Christian Reeves, he redshirted this past season, appearing in only 3 games, and will have 3 years of eligibility remaining. So this is not a 1-year experiment, unless he transfers again. As a freshman, Reeves participated in 13 games for the Blue Devils. Didn't get many minutes, only 3.2 minutes per game. But this is absolutely fascinating. A young player, and if he chooses to stick with Clemson, if he fits in, if he loves the culture, as many do, this could not only be a big get for Clemson basketball this year, but this could be a major piece to build around. We were talking about South Carolina coming in now to the 2024 season as we approach the summer. We've been talking about South Carolina being the team to beat going into 2024 because of what Lamont Paris has done in the portal. Well, Brad Brownell says, wait a minute. Not so fast, Lamont. We're going to keep cooking here in Clemson as well. And this is absolutely fantastic news. 71307 is the way you can text the show. 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Clemson fans, let us know what your immediate reaction is to a Duke transfer. Center, 7'1", Christian Reeves transferring to Clemson to play for Big Bad Brad. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. So many ways for you to get in touch with the show. You can also say, hey, Alexa, play 97.1 The Fan Upstate. You can find us there. However you're listening, We appreciate you doing so. Trey on YouTube says, I'm hoping that the Gamecocks and Tigers replace Duke and the Tar Heels in basketball relevancy. It's wishful thinking. Trey, you never know. It is wishful thinking. I would agree with you there. It is very much so wishful thinking. Duke and North Carolina aren't going anywhere, but I'll tell you this. As much as you may dislike, as much as I may dislike the NIL and the transfer portal, guess what, Trey? It is evening the playing field, brother. It is evening the playing field, okay? The days of North Carolina and Duke and Kansas and Kentucky being the only teams that can go out and get a Christian Reeves or get a five-star commit, those days are gone because of NIL. Those days are gone because of the portal. So we've talked about this many times. We talked about this yesterday on the show pertaining to college football. People do not realize that you can still disagree with something and still use it. Brad Brownell, if you were to lock Brownell and Dabo Swinney in a room together, I bet you $1 that Brad Brownell would probably agree with what Dabo Swinney has to say in terms of, oh, man, I'm just not the biggest fan of all of this. I'm not the biggest fan of this NIL. I'm not the biggest fan of transfer portal. But guess what Brad Brownell's doing that Dabo isn't doing? Brownell's using the doggone thing, right? Brownell's actually picking up the phone and using the phone. Somebody gave Dabo a phone and he hasn't even turned the freaking thing on. Brownell's already downloaded apps. Brownell's already got FaceTime on his phone. Brownell's got Snapchat, TikTok, YouTube. Brownell even has Angry Birds. Dabo still hasn't found the charger. That's the difference. That's the difference. But at the end of the day, they probably have the same beliefs. That's what I've said over and over and over. I've tried to help people understand. People like Rob Brown, who we had this debate with all week. People who are, closed-minded. I'm not saying Rob Brown's closed-minded, but I'm saying people who are closed-minded will say, well, you can't disagree with them, and you have to agree with everything because the players are victims and you're demonizing the players. No. Open your minds, people. You can still disagree. How many times do I have to say this on this radio station? You can disagree, but in the same token, you can use the freaking thing, right? Going back to what Diesel and I were talking about with Rob Brown in our debate. You can admit that the system's flawed, but you can at the same time still blame the players for lack of commitment. It doesn't always have to be black and white. It doesn't always have to be one or two. It doesn't always have to be A or B. Okay? Nolan on the stream says, Guy was a second-rate player at Duke, and now he gets to play for a second-rate university like Clemson. Hashtag cousin-loving country. Wow, Nolan went there. Nolan, I thought that was Alabama, but obviously we know where your allegiance lies, right? Appreciate the text, by the way, Nolan. 71307. Yeah, the guy didn't play much last year. Yeah, the guy's young. But let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, Tolos. Let me tell you something, audience out there. He's better than what they had. And that's nothing. You got to replace P.J. Hall with somebody, don't you, Nolan? Texters. You have to replace P.J. Hall with a body, with somebody that's tall, somebody that can play at the highest level. That's what Clemson did. Just because he didn't play last year, because he redshirted, doesn't mean he's no good. Doesn't mean he can't play at Clemson. Doesn't mean he can't play in the ACC. Could he turn out to be a bust? Sure. Anything can happen. Could he turn out to be a big piece of Clemson's team going forward? Absolutely. Time will tell, right? Time will tell. But hey, Brownell's doing what he has to do. Brownell can't determine whether the player's going to be a bust or not. Brownell can just get the guy in the building and try to develop him. I don't think it's fair to judge this guy based on him playing just a few games and being redshirted. I don't think that's really fair at all, to be honest with you. But hey, Clemson, they lost a player. They replaced the player. Will this player, Christian Reeves, be what P.J. Hall was to Clemson? No. Okay, I'm not saying he's going to be what P.J. Hall was. There's been very few Clemson basketball players in the history of the program who were what P.J. Hall was. P.J. Hall's one of the best Clemson players to ever come through Clemson basketball, ever. One of the best to ever do it. He's one of the greatest of all time in Clemson basketball history. Well, you say Clemson basketball doesn't have a lot of history. No, they don't. But P.J., he is history now because he cemented himself as one of the best to ever do it at Clemson. Nolan says on the stream on YouTube, as soon as you put on that orange jersey, I wish the absolute worst for you, absolute worst possible outcome. Nolan, thanks for the stream. Thanks for the text. Again, passionate South Carolina fan, I would assume, right? Appreciate you listening, man. Appreciate you being a part of the program. That's what we want. We want you to interact with us. We don't just get on the microphone and talk and want to hear ourselves talk. We want you to interact with us, good or bad. Nolan, I like your passion. Let's keep it PG, but I like your passion, okay? I like it. I like passionate texters. I like those on the stream who are passionate about what they have to say. Last week when I was hosting one day, Thursday or Friday, without Diesel, I can't remember which one it was, but we had a couple of great calls, a couple of really good text messages. People bringing the energy. Kevin, fantastic call. Fellow who called earlier, I forgot his name already, from Greenville. Fantastic call. Keep bringing the energy. Keep bringing the passion because that's what we want here on Wire to
Rick.
Wire.
His name was Rick.
Rick, that's right. Thank you. Rick. Thanks for the call, Rick. Great call. Fantastic get for Brownell. South Carolina fans, obviously not happy. They're already voicing their opinion. They're already letting me know that it doesn't matter. But Clemson had to replace, at the end of the day, they had to replace P.J. Hall with somebody. And Christian Reeves, the 7'1 center, will try his best at being a guy who can follow in Hall's footsteps. Will he? We don't know. Will he be half as good as P.J. Hall was? We don't know. That's to be determined, right? That's TBD. We do know that Brownell, however he did it, recruiting, NIL, little cha-ching, however he did it, and he got the big man to come to Clemson. We shall see, time will tell whether or not this is going to be a good pickup for Clemson. He's got the height. Obviously, if you get recruited to play at Duke, you're no scrub, right? You're no scrub if you go play for Duke. Is he going to be P.J. Hall? No. Very few will. But, hey, hats off to Brownell. Hats off to Brad. Good pair with Victor Lakin. We'll see where it takes them. All right, final segment of the show coming your way. It's the last chance for you to get in touch with us. We'll hit on a few things that we haven't had a chance to touch on yet, as well as take your thoughts. So many ways for you to get in touch with the show. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
BreastPros.com.
Strap in. We're going full throttle. Grip it and rip it, baby. Yeah.
You're going wire to wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
Josh Babb on Facebook says, I mean, hell must be freezing over. Former Duke player transferring in, and we hire former Carolina football coach at the same day. That's true, Josh. Has that ever happened in the history of, I don't know, Earth? Probably not. Probably not. Clemson hiring former South Carolina, former defensive coordinator. Who am I talking about? Who's Josh talking about on the stream? By the way, Josh, we appreciate you listening and being a Tolo. That stands for turn it on, leave it on. He's talking about Lorenzo Ward. Former defensive coordinator Lorenzo Ward is joining Clemson's football staff as a special assistant to the head coach. Whatever that means. I have no idea what that means. Special assistant in an off the field. Man, can I get a job where I don't have to work and be an off the field special assistant to the head coach? I mean, my gosh, what is he going to be working from home as well? On leap year? Lorenzo Ward, former Gamecock defensive coordinator, joining Dabo. The Braves, just want to let you know, they are off tonight, taking a break. Listen, man, the Braves, they won 2 straight. They're big winners. They're big rollers. They said, we don't need another game. We need a night off. They've won 2 in a row over the Boston Red Sox. Chris Sale last night. Is it a coincidence that Chris Sale looked like the Chris Sale of old against his former team? I think not. I think not. Okay, listen, he's been good this year, but he hadn't done what he did last night. 10 strikeouts, are you kidding me? A shutout? Chris Sale of old made an appearance last night in Hot Atlanta.
Please don't call it that. We haven't called Hot Atlanta since the 1990s.
When
the Olympics were here.
It's still hot there. It's still hot. Oh, Hot Atlanta. You don't like Hot Atlanta, Brandon?
Absolutely not. I have never liked it. Even when 1996 was there, we had the Olympics. You very rarely heard people say, "Oh, I'm going down to Hot Atlanta."
Hot Atlanta, baby. Listen, the Braves. I'll say this: as we're about 2/10 of the way through the season, started off great, really good record. Still a good record, by the way. Only 2 games back in the East. Yeah, they went through a little slump. But we asked the question earlier in the week, is it time to hit the panic button? And that question was designed specifically for radio because we all know it's not time to hit the panic button. We just wanted your reaction, right? We wanted to know what you thought. We wanted to know if you were freaking out. The bottom line is there's plenty of time remaining. Plenty of time remaining for the Atlanta Braves that are going to slump. Guess what? Newsflash, this won't be the last slump either, okay? They're going to go through more slumps. It's going to happen. But as we said earlier, we talked about it with Bob Nightengale of USA Today, winning the most games in the entire major leagues isn't the end goal. So the Braves off tonight. Tonight in the NBA, you have Boston and Cleveland. Game 2, OKC and Dallas. Game 2, 9:30. Also a piece of breaking news. The Suns have parted ways with their head coach. That didn't last long. Frank Vogel, Brandon, that 1 year, supposed to be a 5-year deal. What do you think about that?
I feel that's a scapegoat. So I think Frank Vogel is more like he was just there for like a body. That's all it was.
Coach, maybe.
Yeah, and because they have an idea who they want to be as their next coach, and I think it was just we have to go through 1 year of mediocrity, and then we'll get who we really want.
It could be. Speaking of getting who they want, the Charlotte Hornets have found their new guy. And I don't hate the hire, believe it or not. Sometimes when hires happen in Charlotte, it's a bonehead move, but I don't hate the hire. The Hornets, what have they done? They've went out and hired current. How can you say former, current at the same time? But he's going to be a former, but he's still a current coach for the Celtics, assistant Charles Lee.
How about Forrent?
Former soon to be former, current assistant coach Charles Lee. First year in Boston, was with Mike Budenholzer in Atlanta, also with Mike in Milwaukee. Has learned from a lot of good coaches. However, this is his first head coaching gig. So I guess the jury's out, right? The jury's out on if he'll be able to coach his own team. We'll see. I think it's a good hire, though. The guy's got a good track record. He's coached a lot of really good players. So we shall see. I want to plate a few segments for tomorrow. What that means is push them off because we did not have a chance to get to them, which is great because that means we were talking about things going on, things that you want to talk about. But I want to tease something that we'll talk about tomorrow. I had this slated for 6:20 today until the Clemson basketball news broke. But two legends, and I mean legends. I don't mean just little L legends. I mean big L legends. Nick Saban and Tom Brady. Well, what do these two have in common? Why am I bringing these two legends, these two GOATs up at the same time? Saban and Brady. I will ask the question tomorrow. Diesel will be back tomorrow, by the way. I will ask the question tomorrow on Wire to Wire. We know what kind of impact Tom Brady had on the NFL. We know what kind of impact Nick Saban had on college football. But I ask the question tomorrow, who will have a bigger impact on sports broadcasting? Nick Saban or Tom Brady? Think on that tonight. Chew on that. You the Tolos, you the listeners. Meditate on that. Sleep on it, if you will. Think about that. Talk to your wife. Talk to your husband about it. Tonight, over dinner, while you're watching whatever you're going to be watching tonight. Who will have? We know what kind of impact Brady and Saban had on football. They're the GOATs in their respective leagues, right? They're fantastic. But when it comes to sports broadcasting, Brady now going to Fox, Saban with College Game Day. When their sports broadcasting career comes to a close, who will have made a bigger impact on sports broadcasting? I'll tell you who I think will make a bigger splash, who will have a bigger impact tomorrow, right here on Wire to Wire. Again, as I said, Diesel will be back tomorrow. Thanks to you, the Tolos. Thanks to Brandon on the board the second day in a row. And thanks to the breaking news of Brad Brownell for giving us some incredible news. Thanks to Big Bad Brad, I guess I should say, for giving us some incredible breaking news down the stretch. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.